Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to another episode of the Wisdom Save podcast. And boy, is it a good one today.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm really excited about our first group topic in a while. It has been a little bit since me and Hannah have like collabed ahead of time to do something. And since D&D has been on the brain a lot recently, especially with more like lots of streamers picking up their like D&D streams again. I'm seeing a lot of stuff about big D&D streams on TikTok and on YouTube, and obviously I'm still watching Critical Role, and I'm seeing a bunch of Dimension 20 stuff, and I'm seeing a bunch of people who were like, hey, quarantine's almost over, but man, when we were in the pandemic, I watched through all of Adventure Zone, and that was crazy. So we've been, D&D is obviously, on the brain.
It's always on the brain.
Yeah, but on the brain more so than it has been in a while. To kind of facilitate that, Hannah actually came up with a really, really cool idea that I am super excited to talk about.
See, my process to this was not nearly as deep as you made it out to be.
Oh, yeah, what was it?
I watched one TikTok and I was like, wow, that'd be cool.
That was where you came up with it.
That's where I came up with that. No, I was saying my part of this process was not nearly as convoluted.
Oh, sure. It's not how it always is, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
My side of things is always way more complicated. There's a web that leads me to a point, and you're just like, huh, cool, check.
Yeah, wouldn't this be nice? And I throw the spaghetti at the ceiling, and if it sticks, I'm like, yep, that'll do.
Wow, that's art. I love that.
So there's a TikTok trend going around where people they're like, oh, poll questions for the Discord chat. And then people took that trend and they turned it into, poll questions for the D&D chat. And they asked a whole bunch of questions that I honestly didn't really like.
Oh, okay, sure. I don't think I ever got the TikTok. I might have.
I think I played some for you while we were trying to think of questions of our own.
Yeah, you did.
But they were like,
it.
Which one of your characters is a sugar daddy? Which one of your characters is going to be the sugar baby? Yeah. Which one of your characters would accidentally start a cult around themselves? Which one of your characters is secretly immortal, but we all know, shaking my head. I'm like, this is stupid.
The thing is, those questions are those are perfectly fine for the format. In a 1 minute TikTok, those are perfectly fine little short, sweet snippet questions. But while this idea was something we wanted to take and roll with, we kind of wanted to go a little bit deeper.
I wanted to have better questions.
Yeah.
Especially since we have more time to roll with it.
Since we're at a minimum 1.5 hour podcast as opposed to
right, a 1 minute long thing.
Yeah, short video.
So me and Ken came up with 15 questions for our D&D group.
Right.
That plays on Fridays. And I called it the D&D survey for the Friday night players, which is funny because Ken said it sounded like an a cappella group.
Yeah, it sounded like the Friday night players is we're an a cappella group, or we're like a theater troupe or something. Yeah.
But really, it covers our Worm Tamers campaign, our Dawn Valkyries campaign, which is Ivy, Aria, Noir, Kylia.
Which you've heard about, those of you who are listening, you've heard about a few times in the podcast, the children of the previous heroes.
Our Ravnica campaign, which I don't know if we've talked a lot about.
We had one video where we referenced some of the stuff that was happening in Ravnica, and we referenced Ravnica as a campaign setting. I think more in the context of magic than in the context of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And then I remember very specifically in that episode being one day we should talk more about Ravnica and it as a setting and all why it's cool and stuff like that, so that people who are listening who don't know a lot about it can learn more about it. And then we didn't do that.
Yeah.
I never really found a good time to be this week I'm going to do a deep dive into Ravnica.
Well, now that we're playing, we go back and forth now between the Dawn Valkyries and Ravnica.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'll do next week, is talk about our Ravnica campaign.
Ooh.
That way, in the future, people who don't know about Ravnica, you can pause this podcast, and it might drive you absolutely nuts, but go to the next one, listen to that, come back.
Yeah, and then learn more about it. That might not be a bad idea.
Because then you know about Ravnica, you can come back, and this will completely make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be interesting. But it's we're going to talk about the characters from that setting. For those of you who listen to this podcast and also play Magic the Gathering, Ravnica should not be very unfamiliar to you. Mm-hmm. It is, I would argue, in terms of like modern Magic, one of the like 3, maybe 4 like most important planes of existence, and one of the like most populated sets. There have been like more, I think 10 or more sets that have taken place on Ravnica, and like most other places in all of Magic's history have never had that many. Right. It's basically like the center of the story.
But we got it. Me and Ken made a 15-question little questionnaire quiz thing that we sent out to our other 2 players. It's Ken, me, Ryan, and Kyle. Hi, yep. Ryan and Kyle.
Hello, Ryan and Kyle. We know you're both listening. Thank you.
And so we're going to go over the questions and then go over all of our answers.
Yeah, so the important thing to note about this, too, is that, like, these questions were meant to, like, some of them are targeted to specific, like, campaigns and specific groups of characters. Some of them are universal across all campaigns.
But I actually kind of grouped them so that they'd be a little bit easier to read.
Exactly, yeah. So they are organized in such a way that, like, when we're talking about one group, we're talking about that group for a few questions, and then we move on.
Until the very end. So the first 3 are Worm Tamers.
Okay.
The second 3 are Dawn Valkyries.
Yeah.
The last 3 are Ravnica.
And then the final 6
are anybody across any campaign.
That's and I noticed that as I was taking it a little while ago.
But I guess we can start.
Sure.
Unless there's anything else I wanted to... I felt like I had one other thing I wanted to say about it, but then I couldn't.
Oh, yeah, right. For the format of this. We, especially so that Kyle and Ryan know, but also for our listeners, we have not read the answers that the other people have given ahead of time.
Yeah.
We
haven't read any of these answers yet.
This is going to be us just reacting to each of these answers, like, as we have it, and then kind of giving our own personal thoughts as, like, oh, I didn't see it that way, or, like, that, I don't think so, and, like, we can kind of, like, we'll debate about it, we'll talk about it, we'll be like, oh, shit, I should have thought of that.
Right. Like, I also haven't read Ken's. Ken didn't read mine. We didn't take the quiz together.
Yes.
I don't know if Kyle and Ryan took this together or not. Probably not. I think literally...
Yeah, but, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. But I'm pretty sure they didn't because Ryan said he took a few hours last night to do his.
Oh, and Kyle did his.
And then Kyle's like, wow, thanks for, like, talking about me while I slept.
Yeah, because we were tagging him. We're like, yo, Kyle, do your shit.
Yeah, so...
So we're going to kind of read back and forth, starting with your answers are all the first ones. So why don't you just start us off and read the question, and then go right into your response, and then we'll kind of go back and forth.
Okay. So technically there's 16 questions. The first one was what player's filling this out currently.
Oh, yeah, so that we know, because of the way that it works in the surveys is that the questions are all the same order, so whoever was the first name on the list, all of the first questions are their responses.
But otherwise we wouldn't have known, so I had to make people sign it.
Exactly.
Hannah, Ken, Ryan, Kyle.
That's the order.
Okay, so the first question is, in your opinion, which member of the Worm Tamers do you think gets drunk the fastest?
I answered this in an interesting way. I'm curious to see if other people did the same way. But, go ahead.
I said, Kellen. He got way drunk off of a few beers back in the day. I think that probably hasn't changed.
He's definitely... He's hardier than he looks, but also, like, he would, like, back when he was hanging around with the Worm Tamers, like, he's a teenage boy. Like, he doesn't have the experience. He certainly doesn't drink enough water.
He just started drinking because we allowed him to.
Right, exactly. So it's, like, that makes a lot of sense. And he did definitely have a couple of, like, pretty mediocre roles early on when it came to trying not to get drunk. So I can see where you come from. I kind of agreed, but that's where I kind of deviated from my question.
Okay, we'll read yours.
So I said it's got to be between Kellen and Petra for me.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, Petra is the halfling rogue.
Wife of Lundquist.
Yeah, wife of Lundquist, who was played by Sean.
Mother of Blair.
Mother of Blair from other campaign. Yep, it's got to be between Kellen and Petra for me. The two of them are the smallest members with the least muscle mass, but I think Kellen edges it out. Kellen is at least pretty hardy. I think he has like a constitution of 16 or something.
Okay.
So I think he handles more drinks than Petra, but Kellen goes way harder, way faster than Petra, and burns out quick. So I would argue that the two of them are like the most lightweight. It's the easiest to get them drunk. It's easier, like it takes less drinks to get Petra drunk than it does to get Kellen drunk. But Kellen
drinks faster.
He can't moderate himself. He is the id of my consciousness manifested into a small teenage boy, which means that he's radiant Aries energy. He's just go at all times. And so I think that when he's like surrounded by a bunch of like badass superheroes that are in his mercenary company that he hangs out with, and everyone's like, yeah, we're getting drinks and we're gonna go have a good time. There's no way that he's not gonna just knock him back as fast as possible to try to impress everybody.
Right.
And that's something like it continuously would happen. Like part of the reason why he got so drunk the first couple of times they all went drinking is because he was like, oh, I'll get two. I'll just get two because I know I'm gonna drink two.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna double fist beers because like that's what the cool kids do.
God no.
Yeah, because that's just how he is. So I argued that like I think Petra gets drunk off less drinks, but I think Kellen is always the one who gets drunk the fastest.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Ryan said Cyrano. The dude is like 5 feet tall, delicate like a flower, and practically has no concept of responsible drinking.
That is a really good point. So I don't
remember how many times we've drank with Cyrano.
I don't remember Cyrano drinking with us, really.
I mean, I completely agree that he probably gets drunk very fast.
That's the thing. Like, one of the big things I forgot is that he is very short. I
don't remember him. I mean, I remember him being short.
I think he's like 5'3".
Oh,
like
he's an inch shorter than Holly is.
He might be. Huh. He's a teeny boy.
He's
an adult, but
I think I always just thought he was short because one of my characters was like 6+ feet tall.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I always thought everybody was kind of short.
Yeah, well, because Asher's like 6'7" or some crazy bullshit.
He's very tall.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Yeah.
So you put anybody up next to him, and we have the height chart.
We do have the height chart.
Yeah, we have a height chart for all of our characters that we made. So.
I think Cyrano is one of our shortest, other than the actual smaller races.
Yeah, he is one of the shortest like human-blooded characters.
Humanoids. He's a half elf.
Yeah, well, I mean, halflings are humanoids too. It's just he's like.
Oh, then
not
human-blooded, half-blood.
Yeah, because he's half human. But that's a good point. Is that like, despite he's very
tall, very slim,
rail thin, not very tall. He's dainty, has very little strength and constitution, and he has absolutely no, he has no stopgap for his impulses.
If the dude can't not realize not to make lich babies or something, whatever he was doing down in his basement.
Yeah.
Then he probably doesn't understand when to stop drinking.
Well, that was the thing. He's ridiculously intelligent, but also someone went to him and his whole thing was that he was trying to bring his friends back from the dead, and he studied necromancy, and he's like, yeah, that's a good way to bring people back from the dead.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was what he knew how to do. That was the resources he had available. The only thing he had left to try to help was Sariel's spellbook, and she was a necromancer. So he's like, yeah, she does that. And the downside to that is someone would because of how innocent his nature is, someone came up to him and was literally like, hey, do you want to help me bring my friends back from the dead forever, and then I'll bring your friends back from the dead? And he's like, boy, would I?
Boy, would I?
Because
would you?
He's
boy, would I?
Trusting to an extreme fault. So if someone was just like, hey, man, just have another drink, it's not going to be a problem, he'd be like, ooh, okay.
You bet.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Ooh, this is fun. Why does this drink taste spicy?
Well, I was going to say, especially if they taste good, if the drinks are good, I bet you he would just drink until he didn't understand drinking anymore.
Yeah, you get him like a good wine, and he's just like, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah. I could see a good argument for Cyrano. I think that makes sense. The thing is,
goodbye.
Yeah.
We look at the same stars.
Oh my god. Oh god. The thing about Cyrano is that, like, I think I didn't pick him because I don't remember him drinking with us. I didn't know if he drank.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get drunk the fastest if you don't drink.
True.
So I didn't necessarily think he did.
Unless you don't drink, and then one time you do. And then you get drunk the fastest.
That's a good point, yeah. That's probably how it would have ended up going then.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah. I think Cyrano's a solid answer.
Okay, so then Kyle's?
Then Kyle's character. So Kyle's response was, if Callista drank, probably her. But to be honest, it's probably Luciano.
Luciano?
First of all, excuse me, that man, he lived a life on the high seas. He's a sailor. He's a captain of a ship. That man can knock a few back. Sure, he's like 5'7", weighs 120 pounds soaking wet, and has a noted weakness for whiskey. But, and rum. Pretty much any liquor. But I don't think he gets drunk the fastest. I think he gets pretty drunk.
I feel like he might get the drunk fastest out of his other friends.
Oh, like out of his crew?
Because
because they're all a bunch of muscle monsters. Like they're all just they're brick walls, and then I'm pretty sure Elia can't get drunk. Like she's the halfling, but she can't get drunk.
I remember very very clearly when we were on Ventress with Luciano's buddies. Asher was there, and he was like being really nervous because he knew we were going to go out on the ocean.
Oh right. Mm-hmm.
And I think it was more Kato, so it was one of his buddies. Was like,
it
oh,
was Joe's old character.
He's like, are you that Asher guy that Luciano keeps talking about? Like he comes back and he gets like really wasted and he talks about you a lot. And so they remember is the thing, which means that they weren't drunk when he was doing this, and he probably was.
That's a really good... You know what? That's a good point. I bet... That's the thing. As I feel like amongst the Worm Tamers, there are plenty of other people who get drunk faster than him. I do think Luciano's the lightweight of his crew. That makes a lot of sense. That's a good point, Kyle. Good observation. But yeah, that's the other thing. He made the point. I didn't include Callista either, because I felt like Callista probably would have been a solid option. I knew she didn't drink.
Yeah, I didn't include Callista because I knew she didn't really drink either. Like, she's underneath the tab in my brain that's like tieflings that drink milk at the bar instead of booze.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That makes sense. That's gotta be it then. Yeah, I feel like that's fair. I feel like all of these answers are like, I think they all make sense.
Yeah.
For one reason or another.
Kellen has more votes, but...
Kellen does technically have more votes.
They all make sense, and I would accept any of them.
Yeah. I think they're all fine answers.
Question number 2. You want to read this one?
Yeah, this question was a funny one. I was really proud of this one. So this is a scenario question. The Wormhall gets a cease and desist letter from their ISP, their internet service provider, warning them to stop pirating movies and shows. Who is the most likely culprit? And this is amongst all 16 of the original Worm Tamers.
Yes. I said Cyrano. I like to imagine him and his zombies having monster movie nights, or binging shows all night long with his buddies. He'd probably steal them, not really thinking twice or knowing that it was wrong.
That's an interesting point. Like, I feel like he'd be like he'd want to do the monster movie marathon and then couldn't do it, so he'd have to go pirate it.
Yeah.
And then
I feel like he'd be the person that would just like look it up wherever he could look it up, and then he'd be like, cool, my movie, and then he would just like take the movie, like do whatever he had to do to get the movie, and be like, yay, I have the movie.
I did it. Wow, did you know if you just click on a link from this website, it's free?
You just get the movie?
Guys, this is crazy. Why are not more people doing this?
And then they'd have a night where he like puts like the blanket over his head and he turns into like a mochi and he's just like watching movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
you go into his room and he's just curled up and he's just like, you want to watch Frankenstein with me?
Yeah, I'm watching Frankenstein for the 15th time.
Yeah.
I downloaded it 15 individual times.
I caught a bunch of crazy stuff on my 12th watch through. You want to hear? I wrote a theory about it.
Yeah. And then, like, we'd be like, dude, you can't do that. We've been getting cease and desist letters.
Yeah.
And you need to stop taking the movies.
Someone here is going to go to jail, and it's not going to be me. And he's just like, it sounds like their problem.
Yeah, it sounds like...
Wow, that sounds like somebody should probably stop doing crimes.
It sounds like someone's a bitch.
Yeah. Ooh, Night of the Living Dead is on next.
Yeah.
I got him on repeat. That's a good one. I also picked Cyrano. I wrote a little. I wrote a scenario in response to make sense of it. So my argument was, Cyrano probably found a website one day that told him he could watch any movie he wants for free, and he was in love. All he has to do is close a dozen or so pop-ups when he logs in and drag all the hot bars he downloaded to the side so he can type in the site, and he can have anything he wants. It's so worth it. Why would he stop?
That's funny.
Yeah, like I feel like if Cyrano had his own computer in the wormhole, it would be like one of those like when your grandma's really bad at using the computer and you go and you're like, hey, I'm just gonna check to see what's going on. Like she's like, oh, I'm getting all these weird ads, and you get like 6 Viagra advertisements you have to exit out of, and you open up Google Chrome and you have to like. You have all the hot bars and you have to like drag them up because she downloaded multiple different hot bars from different pop-up ads, and you have to drag it up so you can use the Google search bar because there's just too many. Oh, yeah, I feel like that would be him. He'd just be like, I don't know how this machine works, but it gave me free videos.
And I got movies.
Yeah, so whether I'm gaming the system or not, I'm winning.
So then Ryan said that he thought it was Luciano.
Luciano?
Unity is smart enough to hide her tracks. Luciano, on the other hand, maybe not so much.
Listen. First of all, excuse me, y'all coming for my boy tonight.
Yeah.
Like,
get him.
Jesus. He's Luciano is...
It's a pirate.
Luciano is literally a pirate, so it makes sense. I don't know if he... Yeah, I could see him doing something like that. But I'd see him like doing it and like thinking he was covering it up. And then as soon as, like, they get the cease and desist letters, he'd be like, fuck. And then he'd, like, clam up. And he'd, like, do anything to, like, sneak suspicion off of him.
He's the kid, he's the sibling you had growing up that looked up porn on the computer and then deleted the browsing history and was like, it's gone. No one will ever see that I did that. And then, people still find out that you did that. And you're like, how?
How did you find that out? How did you know?
It wasn't me.
Oh my God.
It was definitely not me.
Jesus. Yeah, that's probably it.
I could believe he'd do that.
I agree.
I feel like he'd think he was like hot shit, being sneaky and stuff, and then that would happen, and he'd be like, "Oh, whoever is doing that better stop."
Yeah, man. Whoever's doing that, you're going to get us into a lot of trouble. I will get to the bottom of this. This is my new personal mission. Am I being suspicious? Am I overdoing it? Yeah, for sure. Okay, so then Kyle's answer. He says it's Unity.
It's Unity, which is really funny because I love that Ryan says Luciano. Unity's smart enough to not.
Yeah, she's too smart.
And Kyle's like, it's Unity.
Yeah, it's Unity, who's too good to get caught herself using Callista's account. But it's probably because Cyrano heard of the idea and also uses the same account and is less obvious about it because he has to download as many skeleton musicals as he can find.
That's very funny.
Oh, he saw me downloading, he's like, I found this website where they do music videos where the skeletons playing a band, and I downloaded all of it.
There's this one cartoon where the skeletons do a line dance.
Yeah, and I think that's so neat. I downloaded every version of it. I have it in German.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm sure that and that's the thing too, is it it's also an interesting little scenario. Could you imagine that if someone got in trouble for it the first time, and then all the people who were okay, this would be.
I like to assume that all these scenarios are true, but Kyle's is the ultimate truth.
Yeah, that Kyle's is like all of them were.
Unity
doing
has framed all of these people.
All of them were doing it, but Unity either framed them or everyone was using Unity's account.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I didn't do it. Somebody was logged into mine, and Cyrano's like, oh no, she found me out. And she's like, it was probably Luciano. And he's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, I did it on mine. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, next one. Which is the last worm tamer question. Or blatant worm tamer question. What worm tamer are you most likely to pretend that you didn't see and hope they didn't notice you when you see them in public?
Oh boy, this one's spicy.
Mine is 1000% Lem, no doubt.
Wow, surprised.
I doubt he'd acknowledge me, or any of my characters anyways, unless they acknowledge him first. Even then, he'd probably only address me to personally call me a peasant and ask why I'm not helping him, because he thinks I work at the place we met in.
So basically, like, you'd find him at the grocery store, and then you'd be like, oh, you'd find him at the grocery store, and he would just be like peak Karen, like 100% Karen energy.
I feel like he'd be like very Kevin energy.
I hate that it's Kevin, because my brother's name's Kevin.
I know, but, like, I feel like I'd be shopping, and he'd be shopping, and he'd be like...
He'd see you, and he'd just
where's
be like,
rice?
He'd be like, oh, you work here. And it's like...
He'd be like, where's the rice? And I'd be like, I don't know. Yeah. Probably in the Asian food aisle. And he's like, well, what number is that? And I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm buying eggs.
And he'd be like, you're really unhelpful. I'm like, yeah, because I don't work here.
Yeah, no one's paying me to help you, you bitch.
I'd like to speak to your handler.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, that's for sure. Thing is, I don't know if I'd mind Lem, but I feel like Lem is...
I feel like Lem is give or take. I feel like it's either that scenario, or he'd see me, and I'd see him, and then I would pretend I didn't see him, and he'd be like, huh, and then he'd leave. And that's, yes.
That's all I want.
That's what I want.
Yeah. For me, I feel like we'd, like, have a casual conversation. I feel like Lem would be, like, one of those, like... We wouldn't have, like, a good conversation. He'd just be like, oh, hey. Are you... Like, how have you been? And I'd be like...
Do you think he cares how you are?
No, he'd be like, oh, hello. And I'd be like, hey, how are you? He's like, well... And that's it. And that'd be like the end of our conversation.
No.
And that'd be fine. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, God, I don't... Well, I mean...
No, you'd see him in the store. You'd be like, hey, how are things? He'd be like, good. And then he'd walk away. He wouldn't ask you how you are.
No, I don't think he would. That's what I was saying. I would ask him how he was doing. He would say, they've been well. And then he'd leave. Yeah, for sure. And that's fine. I've had awkward conversations like that. Then again... It's a little weird for me because, like, the whole concept of pretending you don't see people you know in public places because you don't want to have a whole conversation. I actually do that to fucking everybody.
Me too.
I do that to so many people. Like, people that I genuinely like, that I like talking to, if I see them in a place and I know I don't have time to have a conversation, I'll just, like, be like, oh.
Oh, I won't.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell if I like you. If you see me in public and I do not ignore you... then I like you.
If I'm on a strict time schedule, like if I'm like, I gotta do I want to be doing something in like 5 minutes and I just came here to buy like a drink and then I see you like at the gas station, I'm going to pretend I didn't fucking see you.
I'll just say it out loud. I'll be like, oh, I'm in a rush, but hi.
That's probably a good idea. I'm just like, and I hide.
And then I usually just follow it up when I see them next. I'm like, oh yeah, when I saw you, I was like rushing off to go do this thing. It was crazy.
That makes sense. Yeah, I don't do that. I'll be like, ooh, shit. I don't see you.
Anyway, you need to read your answer.
Yeah. So my answer, nothing personal, but it's Lundquist.
Oh, God.
I imagine I used to say hi to Lundquist all the time, but ever since he greeted me as a friend with a firm two-knuckle jab to the crotch, I prefer he doesn't know I'm around. Because I feel like that, because that's the thing, is that, like, you'd get friendly with Lundquist, and he'd be like, ha, hey, how's it going? And then, like, the next couple times is, like, he'll come up to you and be like, oh, hey, and he'd do, like, the little, like, the dad, like, oh,
nudge
like,
you
just,
a
like,
little bit?
No, like, come down and, like, jab your stomach, because he's always, like mid-stomach level on me, because he's, like, 4 feet tall. He's going to be like, oh, yeah, hey, what's up, man? And he'd be like, oh, buddy, and he'd, like, come give you a big hug, and I'd be like, the one time he'd be like, whoa, look out! And he just fucking, and he's a, like, extremely powerful monk, so he'd just, like, sonic boom punch you in the gooch and you'd explode.
I feel like I didn't answer Lundquist. Well, one, because I hate Lem, but two...
Yeah, we knew you were going to answer Lem. He's like, anyone who listens to this podcast,
knew it was going to be
Lem. If they barely pay attention to our D&D content, they know that you and that character got beef.
Well, yeah, but also I feel like I feel like Lundquist is a good option. Mm-hmm. I feel like regardless of the first point, I feel like I didn't even think about Lundqvist as being an option.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't punch me in the crotch.
That's true.
Like, I think there's only been one time he tried to punch Holly in the gooch.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And it was during our one-on-one tournament. And
oh, yeah. He missed, I think.
He missed.
Yeah. Like, oh, we're not doing that again.
And so I'm not afraid of Lundqvist. Like,
that makes sense.
I feel like
I am full of fear.
I think he knows that if he punches me in the cooch, that I will absolutely just destroy him.
Yeah, you will unmake him from existence. So I think he kind of learned quick.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
We're bloodfish. He can't punch me in the gooch.
That's... well, you think that.
He never has.
He hasn't. Yet. Oh, I don't know. You're playing a dangerous game.
Okay, so then Ryan said, Lem. Alright.
He picked his own character.
Honestly, the less time spent under his scrutiny, the better. I respect it.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like Lem is like such the obvious answer. Like he's just like nobody wants to go into the bookstore and have a conversation. No one wants to go into the bookstore and have a conversation with Karen. Yeah. Like no one wants to. Like the person who would call the manager is the energy that Lem exudes in his daily life. He walks in like he's the guy who walks in a two-piece suit with like wads of money in his hand, like walking around like he owned the place. No matter where you went into, he would just like that. That's the energy he exudes, and I'm not really like I don't want to hang out with that kind of person. I don't want to say hi to that kind of person.
I don't want to be in the same store as him.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't shop in the same store as him. I feel like
I don't think we would.
I feel like we wouldn't see each other on a day-to-day basis. I mean, maybe like I'd pick one night where I'm like, I'm going to treat myself and go out to a fancy restaurant. And then he'd be like at the other table and it's like, oh.
I was going to say, I was like, you probably see him in like the Stop and Shop, but then I...
No, I don't think
I was like, no, there's people that he gets to go do his shopping.
Yeah, first of all, he would get his servants to go shop at Stop and Shop for him. Second of all, he would not shop at Stop and Shop. He would fucking...
Kroger's,
I don't know. I don't know. Where do rich people get? Yeah, Whole Foods. That's where rich people get groceries from. Whole Foods.
Yeah, I bet you'd see Unity though.
I feel like she would also shop at Whole Foods. Like she'd go. Yeah.
I feel like she would just shop wherever the fuck she wanted.
Oh, that's true. That's fair.
She's like, yeah, like I bet you would see her in a Stop and Shop, not because she really cared about being there, but because she's like, yeah, they just have like better cheese balls.
Just have free samples. I like the free samples. They're really cool. And I'm really good at disguising
myself,
so I get so many free samples. That makes sense.
Anyway.
It is interesting that Ryan picked his own character.
Yeah, I wouldn't think he'd pick Lem, but also, then again, like, when Ryan you make a guy, you know how...
Yeah, you know how they are. Ryan knows better than anyone how Lem is. That makes perfect sense.
Well, also, like, when I did some of these, I ran through my characters first, and I was like, would I hate to run into any of them? No.
Right.
Well, maybe. I mean, I don't think any of them would bother me. Like, if I ran into Raffi, he'd just be fine. He'd just be like, he'd be a dad.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, he'd be great.
Asher's just deadpan.
Yeah, running into most of my characters would be fine. It's just there are certain personalities in the Worm Tamers that it's just like, maybe not you.
I feel like, and he's not mentioned, I don't think, on any of these questions.
Sure.
But I feel like also running into Cyrano would be something that I could or could not be in for.
Yeah, it really depends on
I feel like he'd really want to talk to you.
Yeah, like for a long time. Like he'd be in for a whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, because we still have one more answer.
Okay, go ahead.
This is
Kyle's
answer. Kyle said, Lundqvist, obviously. He's on the same page as me. No one wants to be punched in the dick as a greener. That's how he says hi. And that cod piece, I did not consider the fact that Lundqvist does not
show up
the
with the cod piece.
Yeah, he'd be walking around, like, he'd be, like, this 4-foot-tall, like, braided ginger beard dude walking around...
With a dick fist?
With a, like, literally a crotch attachment made of metal in the shape of a closed fist.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really want to sit and have a whole conversation with him, because people, like... your neighbors would walk by and be like, "Oh,
oh, you're friends with that guy?"
We always thought that guy was like he escaped from a home. Like we just what is going on? But Kyle does say close second to Cyrano.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, probably because he talks for such a long time, which is very endearing, and I love it. But also, like,
sometimes it's too much.
I'd be like on my way to D&D. I had to run in and get snacks from the gas station. He'd see me at the gas station and be like, "Hey!" And I'd be like, "Oh
my god,
no.
Guess what I did yesterday? I have a whole list."
Do you want to see our new dance number? I have the zombies outside. They're waiting
we're
and
actually
ready.
outside. If you want to come around to our parking spot, we'll have to ask some people to move their cars, but we can definitely do the dance.
And I'd be like, I'm late to D&D.
Oh, that's okay. It's not going to be that long.
That was alright, don't worry.
It's really cool. You have to
see it. A 15-minute dance.
No, it's so good. You have to see it. Yeah, no, that's it. I agree.
Okay. So I love all those. Those are all correct.
Yeah. Next question.
Did I read the last one or you?
You did.
Okay, so you read this one.
Yep. Now we're going over to our Dawn Valkyries for the
Dawn Valkyrie
ladies,
questions.
the ladies of the campaign. Which member of the Dawn Valkyries would you trust most to watch over your own children?
Oh, okay. I said, that's tough. Ultimately, I think I'd pick Ivy, not just because she's my character, but because she loves little kids. She's rough around the edges most of the time, but when it comes down to it, she'd do anything to take care of and protect them. Arya's probably a close second because of how protective she is, and the fact that she has experience taking care of younger children.
That's true. Yeah, with her younger sister, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, and your logic for Ivy is like super sound. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's already shown in our campaign like an affinity for small things and especially babies.
Yeah. She loves babies. She loves animals. She loves baby animals.
Yeah, absolutely. So makes perfect sense. And also, she she wants to protect soft, defenseless things with her life, and will like readily throw her life on the line for them. Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense. I said Ivy for sure. Absolutely nothing bad would happen to that child with her protecting them. Sure, she has horrible luck with people dying next to her, but honestly, her anxiety would never allow her to let the baby out of sight.
That's fair.
Yeah, she's a ball of anxiety. She'd just be watching the child like a hawk the whole time. If the child breathes wrong, she'd be like, "Are you dead?"
Yeah. Like, she's the kind of person that would take the baby to the park.
Yeah. And
literally anybody shows up, she'd watch them.
Yeah.
And if they got too close, she'd be like, "You want to die? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to die?"
She'd like sit on the bench with her hammer.
Yeah.
And she'd just be like, "What?" That's my kid. They're playing. Don't fucking touch them.
Leave them alone.
Yeah. You steal her truck, I steal your kneecaps. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like she's like badass babysitter. It's gotta be.
Ryan said Arya.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, she's already the mom of the group.
Well, yeah.
She has already taken care of 3 full-grown children.
Yeah, she does kind of have to keep everybody in line. She's got 3 very unique personalities that she has to babysit at all given times. Well, not to mention all of our NPCs who she has to babysit, like half of those fuckers too. Yep.
Yeah. She's a babysitter.
Yeah. It's by her nature.
That's acceptable. I understand that. I also picked Arya as my second, so it's
yeah. I think both of them were kind of the clear like headrunners. Mm-hmm. If only because both of them had younger siblings growing up.
Right.
Like it makes so much sense for those two to be the ones
that would take care of the babies.
And then like Noir and Kylie didn't have younger siblings. They just had them like each other.
Yeah.
So I don't really think they knew how to take care of kids as well as the other two would. And then Blair had younger siblings, but Blair's also a knucklehead. Right. So it's like
I don't know if Blair takes care of anything. Yeah. I think Ivy took care of her younger sister more than she did.
Pretty much, yeah. That seems to be the understanding.
But anyway.
Kyle, for his answer, said it's probably Ivy.
Okay.
If she can get a defenseless mushroom with 2 HP a massive distance without letting him get killed by a stray arrow, she could babysit children.
That's fair.
That is very true. He literally could have died to a breeze. Mm-hmm. area of effect attacks almost instantly killed him a couple times.
Yeah.
He was within range of a fireball, and the heat coming off of it nearly roasted him alive.
Well, Ivy took really good care of him. She tied him to her back, and she had a shield that she tied over him with padding. She, like, padded the back of the shield with a blanket or a cloak so that it wouldn't be, like, a searing pan if it got hot.
Right.
And then she tied the shield around him.
Yeah.
So.
It was a little comfy trap. That's perfect.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I think it was between Arya and Ivy. I thought it was definitely way more Ivy than Arya, but both of these answers make sense.
Okay. This is the second one. Next question for the Dawn Valkyries.
Yep.
What school subject do you think your Dawn Valkyrie member would be best at? And what one are they worst at?
I struggled with this one.
I did a little bit too.
Yeah.
Especially because I went through all of Ivy's, like, talents, and I was trying to find a weak point.
Yeah.
Which was hard.
Yeah, she's really good at a lot of stuff, and, like, a lot of, like, she has some weaknesses.
Yeah.
But none of them are school related.
That's what I'm saying. Like, also, like, I'm like, okay, like, I'm like, gym, would she be good at gym? Yes. Art class, she might not be good at, no, she's good at that.
Yeah, she's good at art. She's, like, a very talented artist. She's great at drawing.
And I'm like, English, she's got to be bad at, but she's got a really high intelligence. She probably can learn language very easily.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
she's fluent in several languages.
Yeah. Like, gym,
Yeah, no, she's
I'm like,
good at gym.
Music, she's probably not good at, she's good at music.
She can play the guitar, yeah.
So, I wrote...
I'm pretty sure she can read sheet music, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, like, no,
she wrote sheet music.
Yeah, she's good at music.
Anyway, I wrote, I think Ivy would be best at science, art, and gym.
Yeah.
I'm not sure out of what three would be the best for her. But I bet the worst would be history.
Interesting.
She's really good at knowing history about her own family and about her village. The years and dates of her ancestors, where when they lived and things that they did. But otherwise, a lot of history really doesn't sit with her.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, she's really good. That's the thing is that, like, she has a lot of historical background knowledge, and she's good at the history of her people and her culture. But she doesn't really know the broader history of the world she lives in.
Yeah.
Because she's not really exposed a lot to the rest of the world.
Well, like I was telling you before also, is that Raffi's a history buff.
Yeah, for sure.
Raffi knows a lot of history about a lot of different things. That's like why Holly knew weird architecture and stuff.
Yeah.
It didn't really, like, latch to her, but she knew it because Raffi taught it to her.
Yeah.
And Raffi took on a lot of the kids, like, Air Bunny proper schooling.
Sure.
Papyrus and Ivy, and Nova eventually, went to Waterdeep every summer to take classes with Raffi. And that's why they know deep speech, because he taught it to them.
He taught them,
So he would teach them...
Just in case you ever end up in the Underdark.
Yeah.
He's got, like, some real prepper vibes on him.
Yeah, he's doomsday prepper dad. But he, like, just in case they ever needed it, he taught them that. He, like, taught them history about a bunch of different things. Like, their family, but also he was teaching them history about the Sword Coast and, like, other weird things.
Right.
But the only things that ever actually really stuck with Ivy was the stuff about her own people. She didn't care about history in any other way.
She just didn't absorb it.
Yeah.
It wasn't she was interested in it from the perspective of, like, these are stories about my ancestors.
Yeah.
The rest of history, like, history as a broad subject, doesn't appeal to her and doesn't hold her interest.
Yeah, she didn't really care.
Because the thing is, like, she's very intellectual. Like, she obviously would have absorbed the information
if she cared
about
and
it.
she doesn't.
Yeah.
So
that's why she's bad at it, because she just doesn't have the she's not motivated to care.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So I feel like she'd be the worst at history.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah, the thing is, like, when it comes to school, like, Ivy doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. Her stats are, like, all really good for most school subjects. Her stats and proficiencies.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is, like, she's proficient in athletics, so clearly she's good at gym.
Yeah.
Like, she's proficient in, or she has, like, a high
She's that girl that's, like, she's on the football team, and she has no problem, like, keeping her grades up in any subject, except history.
that would be it. She'd be on the football team, and like like they'd be like, oh, you really got to get that history grade up, or you might not be our star quarterback. And she'd be like, fucking stupid, fucking
piece of shit.
Yeah, stupid fucking
history
books, fucking nerds, bunch of old kings, bunch of old bitches, bunch of fucking just grumble through the hallway the whole day. It's like, oh, something's
That's the thing. She doesn't care about old rich people.
Yeah,
and that's all her history really is.
Weirdos.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
But anyway, you, Arya.
Yeah, so I would say that Arya's she's really good at public speaking, and she's trained in history. So I bet she'd be really good at either like the social studies, namely history, or English.
Okay.
I would say that history or the social studies, like I feel like she'd be like good at like sociology, psychology, like that kind of stuff would be interesting to her, and she'd dive really into that. But I would say history and social studies takes the edge, because although she is a good formal public speaker, when she's put on the spot, she can put her foot in her mouth sometimes. I think that she kind of like she stumbles over how she wants to approach. Like she's always like she's charismatic and she's good at public speaking, in that she knows how to
do it.
She knows how to like try to convince people of things. She knows how to say the right things to convince people of her perspective, and that's useful in like a debate or when you're trying to like influence people.
Right.
But when she's put on the spot and has to respond quickly, sometimes she acts with her gut way too much, and she'll just say something stupid, and then she'll, like, once she makes that one little mistake, it cracks, and then she goes into the tank.
She
like,
snowballs.
Why the fuck did I say that? It was so dumb. Now I'm going to have to keep that up the whole time, and, like, that's an argument they can poke a hole in later, and now I'm all thrown off.
Right.
And then she, like, goes into her own head about it. So I think that, like, English is something she'd be good at, like, in terms of, like language arts. She'd be good at language arts, but, like, when it came time to do, like, debates or speeches or something, she'd be like, yeah. I would argue that she is terrible at math.
Oh, okay.
I think that she's good with numbers up to a point. She's very similar to me. She's good with numbers, and then they added shapes into math, and she's like, what the fuck does any of this matter for anything? Why do I need to know how squares work? I see how a square works. It's a square. Just, yeah, that's it. Why do I need to know the volume of shit?
Right. Why do I need to know how much fills a square?
Yeah, like, that's dumb. Yeah, I think that just got really complicated for her. Like, she's able to do, like, simple math really quickly, but then, like, when there's too much going on, she just kind of gets lost about it. And I think it's because she's, like, so nervous to make a mistake. I think that because there's so many moving parts in solving a big math equation, that she's, like, every single time she takes a step, she's like, wait, was that wrong? If that's wrong, then this is wrong. And then this is wrong, and then this is wrong, and then everything's wrong. So I think she just panics about it. I think that, like, math is, like, she, like, gets way into her own head about it and makes a lot of mistakes doing that.
Fair. Okay, so for Ryan, who's Kylia.
Yep.
Her best subject is history. She's book smart.
Yeah. She is very book smart.
And her worst is PE. Why work harder than she has to?
Yeah, she's like she's the girl that comes into PE class, and
she's the girl who comes into PE with leggings, and she's like, I forgot my shorts.
Yeah, right. She's the girl that comes in with a note from her parents that she gets to sit out in PE, and they're like, what happened this time? Are you injured? She's like, no, I literally just got a pedicure, and if I fuck it up, I'm gonna have a meltdown.
Yeah. And if I fuck it up, you're paying for my second one.
Yeah. I don't think you want to do that, so we wrote this note for you.
Yeah.
Now you're absolved.
This is a note from my dad. Mm-hmm. He makes very large donations to this school, so I don't have to.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe I don't have to worry about playing badminton today. Badminton's
the best one!
I know, it's the best one. It really is the best one. No, dodgeball's the best one. Oh, did you not get to play dodgeball in high school?
We did, but not after middle school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We played dodgeball.
We used to be able to play fucking
We played dodgeball all the way through high school. I don't know if we were supposed to, but we
You're
did.
not supposed to.
Oh, we love that shit.
They stopped it at middle school.
Oh, Oh, we played dodgeball. I remember playing dodgeball in junior year.
I love dodgeball.
Hell yeah.
But, what was the one? It was like floor hockey.
Oh, that shit was
that
fire.
got violent.
Yeah, that shit was amazing. Yeah.
See, the thing is I think it'd be the reason that you can't do floor hockey anymore.
Yeah. Because they'd be like, hey, no raising your stick. And she'd be like, I'll raise a stick up your ass.
I'll raise a stick.
She like slaps the puck and hits somebody in the kneecap. They like fall on the ground. She runs over and she's like, what?
Double tap.
Yeah, get up. You know, they land on the puck and she's like, you're blocking it. Thwack.
Okay, so go for Noir.
Just a fucking gremlin. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, like the history part, like of course history is a subject. She has a library in her house that's full of historical
Of course
books.
she's good at that. She'd be the girl that spends most of her time in the library.
Yeah.
And people would be like, she seems like a nerd, but she's like too pretty to be a nerd.
Yeah, right. Ooh.
She'd be like the popular girl who's always reading books.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense.
And like she doesn't want to do PE.
Yeah.
But she still goes into the locker room to talk shit.
Oh, for sure. She's always down to talk shit.
She comes out without her shorts and she goes, I don't have any shorts.
I don't have any shorts.
I don't wear shorts.
Yeah.
Where are your shorts? And she just goes, ew.
Jesus. So for Kyle's answer, he said, Noir's probably good at everything except for math and science, in which she has the patience to work through them, but she would much prefer gym class or the literary arts.
That's fair.
Yeah, she'd like reading or like English. She wants to like write poetry or like that. At least that's how I see her. But I wonder. I'm curious. I wonder why he thinks she'd be bad at math and science.
Just because I feel like he didn't, but I feel like also just she's probably somebody who is worse at them just because she prefers other things.
Yeah, like, well, that's the thing is
like not that she's bad at them.
Yeah,
I feel like she probably goes.
She's another character where I feel like a lot of her stats and proficiencies lean towards her, like
good.
just generally being good at school stuff. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like she might have been kind of like me towards those two subjects, even though I was like that towards all of my subjects, where I could have done better if I really wanted to, but I didn't care.
Right, like only the things that really interest her are like
she'll go hard.
Yeah, she is motivated strongly by her interests and not at all by the things that aren't interesting to her.
Because she did have like those moments where she wanted to make potions. So she'd, like, find the things she needed to find for Ivy to make them. But she's like, I'm not going to try to make them, because, like, meh.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'm not doing this for you. It's interesting. Okay. I think that's pretty fair. I think all of those make sense to me.
Ivy and Noir would be the two people that, like, just go too hard in gym. They'd be the people that take gym too serious.
Yeah, they'd be, like, constantly, like... It's like, oh, Ivy and Noir can be team captains. The two of them look at each other and fucking lightning shoots out of their eyes, like, just straight up.
Pick teams.
And it's like, oh, okay, like, we're about to go in. That's pretty funny. Okay, so the next one. Did you read the last question? I did. No, you did.
No,
you did?
I did? Yeah, I did. It's your turn.
Okay, so it's my turn. Okay. The next question we had... this is the last one for the Dawn Valkyries campaign.
Okay.
What member of the Dawn Valkyries do you think would be the first to die in a horror movie, and why?
Okay.
This is my favorite question to ask for any reason.
This is very
general.
fun. I said probably Ivy. She has absolute shit luck to start with, but now she has Arya and they're a couple.
Yeah.
They fall into the couple trope where if they kiss or sleep with each other at all during that movie, she'll definitely be dead. And since Ivy's unlucky and is a good sense of security for the group, her dying first would be a real good movie move, I believe.
Oh, so it'd be like because she's the one that's like more protective of the group, she dies to like raise the stakes.
Yeah.
Like she's like the one who's like looking out for everybody and always being aware. So if she goes down, then everyone's just like, "Fuck, what do we do now?"
Right. She's the one where you're watching the movie and you're like, "Well, as long as they have that person, they're probably fine. Like they might lose a few people, but they'll be okay." And then they die first thing, and you're like, "Oh no."
See, I like the idea I like the idea that Ivy is like there's different. I think there's different roles in the horror in a classic horror. Depending on what kind of horror movie it is, there's different roles in different kinds of classic horror movies that each of the Dawn Valkyries take.
Okay.
And they all have different things. I think more likely that Ivy is like the overprotective, like very prepared, like expert who's like totally prepared to go hard and fight in the horror scenario.
Yeah.
Who ends up getting killed to show everyone that the stakes are high.
Yeah.
That's most likely what I see of her. I love the idea that her and Arya are the couple that sneaks off to the woods before you know it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
And the monster gets her first because it's always either the quote bimbo unquote character or the himbo jock that gets killed first. And if it's Ivy and Arya out there, she's the himbo jock.
Yep.
Like, she's the, like, Chris Hemsworth in Cabin in the Woods.
Yes. She dies
or Liam
first.
Hemsworth, whatever fucking Hemsworth was in Cabin in the Woods.
So one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Ivy would die first.
Yeah, I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so, my response.
Okay.
I said, it depends on the kind of horror movie.
Okay.
But I think it's either Noir or Arya.
Okay.
Arya dies if the movie is the kind where the pretty blonde girl dies first.
Oh, I see.
But Noir dies if the sweetheart character dies first to prove how dark the movie is. Like, if she's just like, hey, everybody, we're going to go camping, and we're going to go have a good time, and she's like, oh my god, we should make marshmallows by the campfire.
Oh, no.
And then, she goes off to, go get sticks for the campfire, and she gets fucking ganked, and then they find her,
she's like the one for that video game, God, what is it?
Until Dawn?
Until Dawn.
Yeah.
She's like the one who's real sweet and she just has a crush on a boy and then they all pull a prank on her and then she runs off into the woods and gets killed by the fucking Wendigo.
No, that would be it. That would be her. Yeah. She'd be, what was that character's name?
Hannah.
That was Hannah. Oh no.
It's just a prank, Han.
Oh, they actually call her that?
Yeah, they do.
That's
it's
brutal.
Stupid.
That's brutal. I forgot about that part. It's been a long time since I saw a walkthrough of that game. Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is if it's Until Dawn, then Noir dies first. Noir is the character in that. If it's your average if it's Cabin in the Woods, using that same example,
right,
then Arya dies.
Okay,
for sure.
Ryan said Ivy.
Oh,
look, she'd be the first to die and then show up after everyone thought she was dead. Already has a track record of being the subject of aggressive misfortune and would probably take a bullet for everybody. Aw.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, no.
That's something I totally, looked over, too, is that if it was, everyone gets murdered or she gets murdered to let them escape, she'd take that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. She'd be the self-sacrifice, I think, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. I find it really funny that, even if we couldn't, if we didn't know the order of these questions, the way that answer was phrased, it's Ryan.
Yeah.
It's Ivy. Look.
Yeah,
look. That's every single time he needs to explain something, he's always just look.
Look at the evidence. Just look at it.
That was such a Ryan answer, and I appreciate that. And also the use of the term aggressive misfortune.
Yes.
Very Ryan phrase. Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Okay.
And then Kyle's answer, he said, I'd say Ivy,
okay,
because she's got that self-sacrificial edge to her. But on the other hand, it takes a lot of bullshit in one place to kill her. So maybe not. I don't think anyone else can die while she's still alive. That's true. If we consider that they have all of their superpowers and stuff, her whole thing is making it really hard to hurt her friends.
Yeah.
It's her whole entire shtick.
I don't think anyone's dying while she's still around. So
the
I feel like
the monster knows she needs to die first.
Yeah, it has to be Ivy.
I think you're right. I think it actually does end up being... Yeah, I see. I like the idea that Ivy is the jock that dies.
Dies first in the movie.
Yeah. That's funny.
Alright, so next question?
Yeah, we can move on to the next question, which is also the next group.
Oh yeah, the next group. For Ravnica.
Yeah.
Should I read it or should you? Who's last?
I was last, so you read this one.
Okay. Uh, which character in the Ravnica group is worst at their job, or the worst representative of their guilds?
Oh, okay. So actually, first of all, one of the things I want to do before we jump into this, is I want to give a brief overview of these characters because they've never met these characters before. People on the podcast who aren't in the campaign have never met these characters. So this campaign takes place on Ravnica. Ravnica is organized into 10 guilds. Each of them fit into one of the 2 color combinations that we've talked about in our Color Theory podcast. Each of them have different roles and responsibilities. Most of them are unimportant to this, but there are 4 members of this party. There is Kaz. Casimir Full is his full first name, but Kaz for short. He is a soldier and mage of the Boros Legion, which means he's basically a part of the military police force of Ravnica. His responsibility, he's a human, and his responsibility is kind of to try to uphold peace and justice. He is quite strong. He is a
Himbo.
Talented mage. He is very, very stupid. Charmingly so. He's a big himbo.
Strong, stupid, drinks his respect women juice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's a big himbo.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's Kaz. That's Ryan's character. Then we have your character,
Alistair. You do it. You're better at it.
Oh, okay, sure. I figured you want to talk about Alistair.
I mean, I do, but I'm gonna just be yeah,
he's neat.
Hot.
Yeah. Alistair is he is a member of the Gruul clans. They are a group of Ravnica is essentially one large gigantic city, and most of what was formerly nature that existed on the world has since been overtaken by industrialization and the growth of civilization. And the Gruul, who were once the caretakers of the wild and natural places on Ravnica, have basically been pigeonholed into ruined old sections of the city and areas where nature's last bastions still reside. They're barely breathing infrastructure of the city, and because of that they're pissed. And
naturally
the Gruul tend to be very, very impulsive and innately anarchistic in their views and their thought processes, and Alistair is a pretty good example of this. He is a quite talented druid, and he takes the form of animals on a pretty regular basis, and also uses his mastery over nature and the natural elements of magic to destroy the artifacts of civilization.
He's very conflicted.
He's very conflicted because he has a lot of friends who live in civilization. He's learned to constructively control his impulsive desires to destroy by channeling that destruction towards people he considers to be worthy of that destruction, namely people who have harmed his friends and done wrong by him.
Right. He still wants to tear down buildings, but he's I mean, I like these 4, so...
Yeah, these people are fine. He's also a very handsome, dark red-haired boy with heterochromia. He has 2 different colored eyes.
And a big scar on his nose.
Which he received from a Boros soldier.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know if we told people in the campaign that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoops. Spoilers. We'll call it a teaser.
Okay.
We'll call it a teaser. The other 2 characters are Hex. Hex is a strange human-appearing woman who she's dressed in a very carnival MC kind of attire, lots of black and white, a corset, large top hat, very elaborate dress, looking like she's trying to wow and amaze you.
Violet hair, she's got bright yellow eyes.
Yeah, makeup, lipstick,
black eyeshadow, black lip.
Yeah, she's done up like it's a night at the carnival. And she is a member of the Is It League?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always forget their subtitle. which means that she is basically a like magical scientist.
Yeah.
They do alchemy. They create like.
She has guns.
Yeah, she has guns, which there aren't a lot of guns on Ravnica, but they do have guns in the Izzet. She makes like flamethrower turrets and stuff like that. She creates these like potion concoctions and like weapon capsules that her spells come out of.
She made my tattooing kit smell like lavender.
Yeah, she can do all sorts of cool like technological things. Fun secret about her that the party members do know, everyone is aware of at this point, is that she is actually a changeling, which means that she can take on the physical appearance of other people. She has at least one, or at least two that the party has seen, alter egos that she wears around in different places. Those alter egos are members of, sometimes members of different guilds. And she is actually a deep cover agent for the Dimir, which is an organization of spies and secret information brokers and sometimes assassins that work in the underbelly of Ravnica to get to the heart of many political issues and try to stay atop of everything. So she is kind of a natural informant for the Dimir. And then last but not least is Angelo, the character that was kind of an NPC until the party adopted him. He kind of adopted them too. But he is a street performer. He is the lead guitarist and singer in a punk band. They operate out of the cult of Rakdos. He's got a very like witchy, like spiritualist, but also like punk rock / hair metal vibe to his outfit and demeanor. And he's very calm, cool, and collected. He kind of acts like he's like, I don't care about anything, but he's actually like a big softie at heart.
Yeah.
And yeah, so those are the four characters. Hannah plays Alistair, Ryan plays Kaz, Kyle plays Hex, and I play Angelo.
But
so those are the characters.
So who's the worst at their job?
Yes. Which of those four characters, which one is the worst at... So the specific response to the question was, who is the worst at their job, meaning the worst representative of their guild's ideals?
Okay. I said... that is hard to answer. I said, Kaz does spend most of his cop time committing crimes.
He spends most of his cop time committing crimes with you guys, to be fair.
Which he's, I guess, supposed to kind of be doing a little.
Yeah, he's a member of the Wojek, so it's like he has special permission to interact with other non-Boros guilds in order to, like, better control what's going on in society.
And I said, and Alistair spends a lot of his time in the city, even though he's supposed to be tearing it apart. I'm not sure if Angelo has many other commitments. And Hex, while also being very distracted with us, still puts a lot of time into work where she can. So I'd have to say it's either Kaz or Alistair.
Like, if you had to pick which one of those two.
Those two is worse?
Yeah, like, which one is, like, the worst? Like, which one is worse at doing what they're supposed to do?
I'd say me.
You think it's you?
Alistair. Like,
interesting.
The thing is he, like, I can see that what Alistair is doing is technically what he's supposed to be doing. But he's also spending, like, so much time away from the rubber belt, and he's, like, not doing as much... At least he feels... This is him talking through me right now.
Sure.
He doesn't feel like he's doing as much as he should. He feels like he should be destroying more stuff. He feels like he should be hitting more people. He should be, like, just doing more. And he feels like everyone's judging him for it. Like, he's like, I'm not... Like, I told my sister she shouldn't be part of the girl anymore. And why did I do that?
Yeah.
And, like, I should be getting a bunch of stupid idiots together and, like, crushing shit. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I here?
I should be getting a bunch of my big dumb boneheads together, and we should be knocking over, like, statues and shit.
But instead of hanging out with you four idiots, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I'm hanging out with a punk guitarist, a, like,
cop.
Tech nerd, and a cop, and we're going to, like, solve crimes. I mean, sure, we've murdered a couple of rich guys.
Yeah.
We've murdered a few rich guys.
Yeah, sure, I've murdered a bunch of people, and sure, like, I am, like, kind of, like, subtly destroying the city. I'm, like, taking, like, precious artifacts from people and returning them to the clan.
I made a guy throw a dumpster at me.
Yeah.
We're having a good time.
So, like, I'm doing stuff, but also, like, he feels like he's not doing enough. Like,
That's fair.
even while Kaz is committing crimes well on Wojak time,
yeah,
like, like, that's still kind of his job.
Right.
So it's like, he's in the same boat as me, but I feel worse about it, I feel like.
That's reasonable. Yeah, I feel like he's whether by his own ignorance or by his own justification, he's like, no, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure he feels like he's doing.
Yeah, I killed a bunch of rich dudes, but they were all covering for the bad guys.
Yeah.
It's not my job to decide whether the murder I did was legal or not. It's my job. That's the Azorius job. My job is to kill bad guys.
Right.
Yeah, which is like, that's big cop energy. That's big.
It's not untrue, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it like it can be like that is something that can be taken to the extreme and like used to justify any number of heinous actions against innocent people who you justify as the bad guy because of who they are. Like other cops with his same ideal might be like, oh, I saw a Gruul kid walking around and he's a Gruul, so he's the bad guy, so I murdered him. Like that's fucked up. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, Kaz is too stupid to be an asshole. And also, like, he is, like, a genuinely good person who believes in justice. He's just now trigger happy because he's identified people who are, in many ways, irredeemably evil. Like, these are, like, cultists trying to bring about world domination.
Well,
like,
that's the thing, too, is...
They have to die.
They're, like, trying to destroy Ravnica, which is, like, how Alistair's also justifying what he's doing.
Well, that's the thing, is it, like...
He's like, okay, if I don't help them stop this shit, everyone dies.
Right, including my people.
Like,
I want this city burnt to the ground, but not...
But there's no city to burn to the ground if everyone's just dead.
And that's the thing, is it like the understanding that you kind of got from learning about what the cult you're fighting against is like...
They're, like, planning on mind controlling everyone.
Yeah, they basically want to, like, awaken ancestral spirits who are loyal to them and then possess everyone on Ravnica with ghosts.
Yeah.
So that they all are subservient to one person, and then that one person basically becomes the new god of Ravnica.
Yeah.
And then everyone follows their way. Like, no one would have any free will.
Yeah.
And nothing sucks to a member of the Gruul more than not having freedom.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's just absolutely abhorrent to me.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I'm spending time in the city not exactly doing what I'm supposed to be doing, like it's a little 50-50.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's nothing that I would, like, that's why I'm doing it anyway. Is because if I don't sit here, well, that's why I'm doing it anyway. But, bunny ears.
Yeah, right.
But if I don't do this, then it doesn't matter. None of, like, me going back to the Gruul clan right now and, like, doing rock chavs until I'm dead is gonna help fix this issue.
That's pretty fair. Interesting. So yeah, my answer.
Yeah, your answer.
I said, God, this works for all of you, doesn't it?
Oh no.
It's a really hard call, but I'd have to say it's probably Angelo.
Mm-hmm.
The dude loves to live his own life and play by his own rules, which is the Rakdos thing. But he barely proselytizes for Rakdos, their demon who runs their cult, or even causes chaos in the city at all. He won't even do any murder on stage. If you don't walk the barbed chain wire, are you really even Rakdos? No, but that's okay. Angelo's in it for the aesthetic.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Angelo is one of those Rakdos cult members who's like, I'm in the Rakdos cult. Rakdos, kind of fuck that guy. I like that they let me do whatever I want. There are a couple of guilds that would let me do whatever I want, but damn it, I look good in red and black. Like, he's like, the thing is that, like, I feel like all of us are in our own ways bad at doing what our guild wants us to do.
Right.
The difference is that you all feel bad about it. Angelo does not. Angelo does not give a fuck what they think about. Like, hey, you really should, like, consider, like
talking about Rakdos to people.
Yeah, you should consider, like, converting people to the cult of Rakdos, like, getting people in on all the fun. You should consider, like, inviting people to murder house parties so we can have more, like, lambs for the slaughter. You should consider, like, becoming a blood witch and like swearing to some noble cause for the Rakdos that you fight for, and he's just like, or I could play guitar and you could all get the fuck off me.
Or I could do a concert and literally eat my butt nuts.
Yeah, like, how about fuck you guys? Yeah, I just think, like, he's in it for why he wants to be in it and nothing else, and he's just not interested in anyone telling him otherwise.
That's fair.
And I feel like that means he's like he doesn't care that he's bad at his job. You are all bad at your jobs, but you feel bad about it. He doesn't give a fuck.
Okay, well, that's fair.
That's my argument.
Okay. So the next one's Ryan.
The next one will be Ryan's, yes.
He said Hex. Honestly, hard question. She's technically in 2 guilds, at least in practice. And severing the ideals...
Or serving in one.
And serving... Oh, yeah.
Serving the ideals.
Oops. And serving the ideals of one means that she's going to put the other one on the back burner for a while. True.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the thing is, like, I'm not really sure, like, there's some details. I'm not really sure what Kyle has brought up and what he would want to bring up. So the best I can put it at is, like, you guys don't really know for sure if Hex, in her Is It persona, is a member of the Is It because that's a convenient cover she's good at, or if she's spying on the Is It for the Dimir.
The only thing I know for sure is that I don't know if everyone caught it, but at least Kyle last week, because we've gotten into her Dimir stuff.
Yeah, we started getting into her backstory. Yeah, a little bit.
The only thing that me and Ryan were both like, I fucking hate this place. And Kyle was like, I also hate this place. And we're like, you're the one that's the Dimir. You're the reason we're here. Yeah. What do you mean you hate this place? And he was like, yeah, but like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, I think he said something about like being forced to, like, he was like in too deep. Like he was like forced to be in the Dimir. And
okay, interesting.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like, interesting. All right. And he said something about, he's like, well, why do you think she like throws herself into the Isn't stuff so much? Because she likes them better. And so I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah. There is a saying on Ravnica that once you join the Dimir, you never leave.
I figured that was the way that works, which is why I was on the way home and I was like, are they going to try and recruit us into the Dimir? Because A, they better fucking not. B, if they do, I'm not joining. And C, if we join, we're not leaving, and I'm not okay with that. Like, I would much rather fucking die here than join the Dimir. And I don't plan on dying here, so, or joining the Dimir, so we're leaving.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's the thing too. Is that, like, there's definitely on multiple levels there is an identity crisis for Hex that plays out in that character.
Right.
It is interesting, also, and I don't know if Kyle necessarily did this on purpose, or if Kyle like did it because he's like, well, this is how we're approaching this situation, so I'm gonna just do it this way. Is that I do believe, at least on screen, and to my understanding of how me and Kyle discussed the character, as far as I know, this is the first time that Hex has met with his mentor as Hex. I don't think, like, I'm pretty sure Etrata knows that Hex and Damien are the same person, but I don't, like, especially on camera, like, in the game itself, has always been Damien when meeting with her.
Yeah. I figured that was
this is the first time that Hex met with her. So that's an interesting little thing that I don't know how that dynamic's going to play out. But, we'll have to see. Alright, so Ryan's answer to this question.
No, that's Kyle's answer.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that was Ryan's answer. Kyle's answer to this question. Kyle says, I actually think everyone's pretty decent at their job. But on sheer technicality alone, it's both Hex and definitely not Hex at the same time due to her double life.
You know what's really weird? Well, other than you saying it was Angela, which I actually, like, really agree with now that you've, like, pointed all of it out.
Yeah. When was the last time he did anything that you would associate with Arachnos? Yeah. What does he do that is fundamentally different from what Alistair does as a Gruul member?
Not a lot.
You run around in town, you cause trouble and chaos, and then you go fuck off and do your own thing.
Yeah.
What do you do that's different from what he does?
I don't know. I think I think Alistair's just thought that he's acting like not like Arachnos, but he's like, yeah, this is just how you guys do it. Like,
yeah, well, that's the thing is that he doesn't really know, and Angelo's kind of coasted on that.
Yeah.
But Angelo's just like, he like for all intents and purposes, as soon as like he got rolled up with you guys and like tried to help you out with everything that was going on. Mm-hmm. Once he got into this, he's like, okay, I'm doing this now. He hasn't done a fucking thing for his guild. Yeah, he's like, I don't give a fuck about these guys.
But I think my favorite thing is that when we're like, who's the worst at their job? I was like, literally everyone's bad at their job except for Hex. I was like, Alistair and Kaz are. I think they're the worst at their job. I literally said, Angelo, I don't know what his commitments are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And, so I don't know if he's doing well or not. And I was like, but Hex, she's doing good.
Yeah.
Like, Hex has got it. And then everyone else is like, Hex is doing bad.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, no! I thought Hex was doing so well! Like...
Well, the thing is, like, I think she is doing so well. I do think there's a crisis.
Right.
Like,
I think Kyle
crisis.
is the most right about Hex, where she's doing great, but also not doing great.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing is that, like, she's doing really well at one guild at a time. And she switches, which, like... She starts dipping and not paying as much attention to, like, the information gathering and stuff she needs to be doing for the Demir when she spends a lot of her time working for the Isn. And then she'll leave work for long periods of time and slack off because she's going off and doing... Like, she goes whole ass into one guild or another at a time. But she can't do that forever. And eventually she's going to have to kind of choose one to have her allegiance.
Her loyalties to.
Or she could choose none. Or she could keep this going for as long as she can until she burns out. But
I think I was also just looking through it through an Alistair lens.
Sure.
Where Alistair, like, has slept over Hexes, like, twice.
Oh, yeah,
and
true.
So each time he's seen her, like, get up in her bathrobe and, like, make herself tea and breakfast and, like, get onto her, like, desk and, like, do work for a really long time. Mm-hmm. And then he'd, like, sit there and wait for her to be done. And then they would, like, and everyone would show up. And then we'd all leave. Like, she's the one we wait on to finish her work before we go.
Right.
So he's like, she must be doing a really good job.
Yeah. And that's it. But like, but the truth is that all of you are really bad. It's just that, like, different people have different perspectives on how much bad you all are. But all of us agree that we're all pretty not great.
Yeah.
Except for Kyle, who thinks everyone's pretty good except for Hex.
Yeah. Which is great. It's like, together, we can all be the worst.
But that's probably Hex. I feel like that's a lot of Hex coming out through Kyle.
Right.
That's Kyle being like, oh, everyone else is so good because they don't have to focus so hard on all these things. I have to juggle so much. I have to put my nose to the grindstone and I still can't even get there.
Which is really kind of like...
Hex feels like everyone else has their shit together and no one else has their shit together.
Which is also, like, super cute and tragic because that just, like... Angelo doesn't fucking care.
Yeah, he's like, whatever.
Kaz is like...
I'm here to kill rich guys. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Kaz also doesn't fucking care.
Yeah.
But then it's like Alistair and Hex are both like, they're doing good. And then the other one's like, but I'm doing bad.
I suck.
Poor things. Anyways.
This one I'm so excited about.
This one? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I think I think
this is yours.
Okay. If your Ravnica character had to be a member of any guild other than the one they are currently in, what guild would they join and why?
Okay.
This one's fascinating to me from a color theory perspective.
Okay.
I want to see what that third color is.
I said, so this is for Alistair. Honestly, probably Selesnya.
Interesting.
He hates the idea that he'd fit in there at all because of their more white qualities. Yeah. Which is why he lashes out so much at it and his uncle so hard.
Mm-hmm. His uncle, who is a member of the Selesnya Conclave.
He thinks they're cultish, naive, and too eager to roll over and merge with the city. But he doesn't What did I try to write there? That's a typo.
I think you might have tried to say hate.
But he doesn't hate it. I guess so. I think Gruul is where he fits best, of course. But he'd be a fine at best and bad at worst Selesnya member. If there's anywhere else he'd fit, that's probably the place.
Interesting. So I think that kind of like I always consider like one of the major differences between a lot of your average Gruul clan members that we've met. Mm-hmm. The differences between them and Alistair is kind of that he's much more green than the average. Like, more Gruul lean on their red side.
Yeah.
He leans more on his green side. So I do find it interesting that he ends up in another green guild.
Right.
I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, he spends a lot of his time hanging out in the city anyway. Sure, he wishes that it was, like, untamed wild, because that's what he's most comfortable in. Mm-hmm. But I think that if there was a sense of freedom within the city that was like if he was able to hang out, like, yeah, sure, there's, like, there is, like, a small tower in the treetop. Like, it's a giant treehouse, like, citadel.
Right.
And that's weird. But if otherwise I could kind of just like live my own life and do whatever I want and nobody had like any like structure or rules for me, he'd love it. Yeah. It's just the fact that there's like this weird structure that he hates. He doesn't necessarily hate the civilization so much as he hates the rules that come along with it.
It's that, and also like he just wants there to be. He wants to live in a forest that doesn't have a city. He wants there to just be. He doesn't like that. Like, the Selesnya grow all of their watermelons in a box.
Oh, okay, sure. So the trappings of civilization are kind of a problem for him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like,
do you think he'd be more of he'd be like a beast tamer?
Maybe.
He'd, like, raise puppies.
I feel like if he was forced to join the Selesnyans, that's why I said I feel like he'd be a fine at best and a bad at worst Selesnyan.
Sure.
Because he'd probably be the kind of person that would join and then would just, like, still just be really pissed about it for a long time. Like, he would just lay around and be aggressive towards people because he couldn't break things for threat of being kicked out.
Right.
Like, he'd want to be there enough where he wouldn't crush buildings, but he'd then become more violent. Like, I feel like being pushed to Selesnya would make him more red.
Interesting. Yeah, like there's a natural rebellion thing. Yeah. Like, wherever he is, there's a part of him that hates the structure and the rules that organization puts on him. Yeah. Even in the Gruul, it's like, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. It's like, fuck you, I want to do what I want to do.
Right, yeah. He wants to be doing his own thing. And that's the thing. That's almost like I almost put Rakdos down for him.
Interesting.
Because I was like, it seems like Angelo just does whatever the fuck he wants.
Right.
And there's no repercussions for that.
Right.
So he's like, I could be down with that. Mm-hmm. Like, just fucking do whatever I want. But he also, like, doesn't want to just kill people and walk on razor wire either. And he sees some people doing that. So he's like, and he also, like, they call it a cult, and that rubs me the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like I'm going to end up, like, sucking some demon dick. I don't want to. Because it's part of the cult.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah, you kind of have to. It's the punch bowl of this cult party, so.
You don't want to suck demon dick? I don't understand.
So
I'm confused.
That's why I was broken? Like, he likes where he is in the Gruul.
Yeah.
The thing he's more afraid of is everybody judging him for, like, for not wanting to destroy us more than he should be. But if he had to leave them, I've already kind of thought about this, like, if they ever got mad enough to kick him out of the Gruul, because that's never not a thing that could happen.
Right.
You could do one wrong move and they could be like, get out. They can't technically, I talked this over with you too, they can't technically tell him not to be a Gruul member anymore, because Borborygmos is the one that has to, like, put his stamp on that, and he's not part of our clan.
Well, like, I mean, he could be like, you're exiled from the Rebel Belt. If we see you, it's kill on sight.
Right.
But, like,
most
people who are exiled from their clans go become Trogs.
That's
the
what
roaming nomads in the wild.
That's what I figured, is that if he ends up getting exiled from his clan for any number of reasons, he'd probably just live on his own in the Rebel Belt.
He'd just be a nomad, basically. Yeah, makes sense.
But I wasn't going to pick that because that's still Gruul, so if he had to leave, he'd probably go to Selesnya, and he wouldn't like it, but he'd deal with it.
Makes sense. So for mine...
Yeah, that was longer than I wanted it to be.
No, that's okay. I think it's interesting. This is the one I want to talk about a lot. The next one, it's hard to say, but Angelo definitely cares more about being free to live the life he wants to live. The only Gruul that can provide for that is a red one.
The only Gruul?
The only guild. Sorry, I'm looking at the next line. The only guild that can provide for that is a red one. And he loves the trappings and vices of civilization too much to live as a Gruul. Mm-hmm. He definitely would never be a cop. So Izzet would be his only other option. He'd probably try to incorporate more pyrotechnics into his acts if he joined the Izzet, but I definitely feel like he'd be like fine being like a low-level Izzet researcher, just kind of like occasionally being like, "Hey, I came up with this cool thing. It's a gun that when you pull the trigger, it kills you. Now fuck off." And like let me do my thing.
That's fair.
But he'd probably come up with like he'd probably be like really into like making up stage lighting. He'd have like all sorts of cool, like I could see him being really into stuff like, yeah, these are like lightning, these are like electromagnetic hover boots that I can use to fly during one of my solo acts. I just kick them and I'll start fucking spinning and doing guitar upside down and shit. Yeah, like, he'd be really into it. I think he'd find a cool way to make the Izzet, like, I think he'd be much more of a performer at that point than just kind of, like, a free agent. Cause now with the Rakdos, he has a little bit more freedom to kind of just fuck around. And they're like, hey, man, what have you been doing? He's like, I've just been going out fucking killing people and chilling. Like, you know, doing cult stuff. Like, what do you want?
Right.
Yeah, but I think, like, the number one thing he cares about more than anything is being able to be free to live his own life.
It is fun. That's literally all Alistair wants to. Just leave me alone. Mm-hmm. He does. Angelo does it more effectively, though. He's like, I'll just be a scientist. Who cares? I'll pick it up.
That's really interesting.
Look, I was literally gonna be like, is he scientifically inclined whatsoever? He just.
I mean, a little. Like he's kind of smart.
Boy just said, "Hot girl summer. I'll be a scientist."
Yeah, he's like. I mean, blue doesn't look too bad on him. Like he'd be fine. He could make it work. He'd find some outfits.
This is for Ryan, who's Kaz.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, Kaz is too goddamn dumb to be an Azorius.
Too many laws to memorize.
Honestly, if it weren't for the structure of the Boros, he'd have ended up a Rakdos or a Gruul.
Wow.
Probably favoring Gruul for their more impulsive and free nature. It catered to his rebellious side, so yeah, Gruul. Wow!
Wow, Kaz would end up in the Gruul if he wasn't... That's crazy.
I mean, he's got an in.
I mean, his brother did it.
Yeah, his brother did do it.
Yeah. Because that's one of the whole little things that his brother, like, ran off before their like, military academy graduation and just went to go live in the Rebel Belt. And had been missing for a little while until he showed up.
Yeah. In my camp.
Mm-hmm. With a bunch of assholes making your life difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's dilemmas.
And now I have to capture his brother without killing him.
Mm-hmm.
Restrictions.
Ugh, rude. I hate having restrictions.
But that's nuts to think that Kaz would be a Gruul. I never would have guessed that was what he'd do.
I honestly, like... Oh, it's so weird. I didn't have any idea what he was going to pick for his answer. Mm-hmm. I couldn't see him anywhere else.
I figured he would just pick Azorius and then, like, just maybe use his little block more, like his little book of rules.
So yeah, like, I think that's an angle for the character. I think that made sense. And I thought maybe that was a direction he might consider. It just felt so weird for me to see Kaz in a guild that wasn't red, because he's so rebellious.
We all have red in our characters.
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
And one of Kaz's absolute favorite things to do is find ways to bend the rules and the law to do what he wants to do.
He has been doing a lot of crime lately.
Yeah, he's been doing so much crime. And then also, the last time he did a crime, he was with you when you dragged a public official, a religious official, out of the 8th-story window of a hotel and dropped him to his death. Just like crunch.
I dropped with him.
Yeah, and you were in your animal form.
I was fine.
And survived, and he died.
Yes.
And then you just left his corpse in the street. And then Kaz proceeded to run away with Angelo, with a Rakdos cultist. The two of them got stopped by the Azorius night hussars who were trying to bring in people for questioning. And he paralyzed them with magic and ran off. Yeah. And then when his supervisor was like, hey man, what the fuck happened? He was like, I don't know, this guy from the Golgari we saw on the way there, he was being a fucking weirdo. It's probably that guy. He did crimes and then assaulted executive officials.
That were being
stupid. And then
stupid.
Blamed it on another guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's all, like, for the purposes of, like, the whole point of it is, like, he's doing it because
I think the thing is that the main problem...
It's a righteous cause.
The main problem is I don't see a problem with it.
Right, well, that's what it is.
The main problem is me, a gruel, is like, that's 100% justifiable.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's all reasonable, and all of you are red, so you're all like, yeah, I get it. Like, I know what the fuck I know what's going on. That makes sense. But the thing is, like, he does have this rebellious nature, and he does like to bend the rules. Azorius don't bend the rules.
Right.
So it didn't fit to me. So I was like, I feel like he has to end up in a red guild. He's not smart enough to be in the Izzet. I was like, I feel like maybe Ryan will be... I thought that Ryan was going to... Like, I thought about Rakdos and Gruul, and I'm like, which one of those work? Like, which one would make sense? And I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. Like I was like, I don't think he would do that. And so I thought Ryan was just going to be like, oh yeah, he would just like not be in a guild. Like, he'd just be like a dude. And he'd be like a vigilante. He'd be like a vigilante or something. But no, I mean, the Gruul makes sense. It's like, yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that the Boros had structure, he likes that the Gruul are like impulsive and free spirited. He likes that they just kind of get to do their own thing. Maybe he might not like smashing civilization as much as your average Gruul, but like they'll let him alone to do his own thing.
Right.
So
fair enough.
Not anymore. Because now he wears the Boros colors, so if they see him in the Rebel Battle, it is on sight.
Yep. Well, that's why it's like, hey, if he's ever switching guilds, which obviously this is just for the scenario.
Right.
But it's like, hey, if he's switching guilds, he's got an in, and one of those ins is, one of those, like, little tips that I'd give him is, get a different outfit.
Yeah, like, completely change your look.
Before you come out here, because otherwise people will eat you!
Right. So next is Kyle's.
Yep.
Kyle says, Hex actually enjoys being part of the Izzet League, despite being a Dimir infiltrator. There's a large part of her that wishes she had joined it first.
Oh.
I think that kind of draws into some of the stuff we were talking about before.
Yeah.
I think that, like, there's this crisis of conflict, and I think that Hex is starting to realize that she just wants to live a normal life as an Izzet researcher. Mm-hmm. But how the fuck is she going to do that? Because the Dimir know everything about her.
Right.
Where is she going to hide from them? You're not.
Just stop doing good work for them.
Yeah.
Just tell them to fuck with us and we'll deal with it.
That's a lot. It's interesting. I'm really excited about that. Okay, so now we have our last Ravnica question. Okay. This one's for you, baby.
Which character from Ravnica do you think would be the first to put their life on the line to save the rest?
Ooh.
I said, I suppose I can't speak for the rest because I don't know their intentions, but Alistair's my pick for this.
Okay.
If only because he's definitely already decided to tell Kaz to throw him under the bus to save everybody if we get caught. And if Kaz thinks that would work.
Yeah.
He knows that as a Gruul member, it's easy to blame him, and to key him in parts of our activities would make a very believable excuse. It's believable to make people think that he made our group work with him, with threats or something.
Oh, like that you guys, like, threatened him to work along, so he had to go along with it?
Yeah.
So, like, he has an out, basically.
No, like, I think it's easy for them to throw me under the bus and be like, he threatened us.
Oh, yeah, the Gruul guy told us he'd kill us if we didn't do stuff.
He's only in this city still because he likes this group. Though it's harder for him to admit it than he would like to believe.
Mm-hmm.
His hate for Ravnica's civilization is the same, and isn't changing but it hasn't changed his relationship with everybody. He'd gladly give up his life to protect the group.
Interesting.
That is something that I have been trying to figure out a good time for, but we just haven't. Alistair's gonna eventually be like, Kaz, like, if we get caught, because just fucking tell them it was me. Like, just absolutely throw me under the bus.
Sure, yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, they'd already blame you anyway.
They would
what's
anyways.
the fucking point?
But just, like, try your...
Or at least as far as you're concerned.
Right. Just, like, if you can, just weasel literally everybody else out of it. Just, like, put all of the blame on me. Say I blackmailed every person in here and that I, like, make up whatever you want. Just get everybody else out and I'll figure it out on my end. But that's my thing.
I think that's a pretty reasonable point. My answer was Alistair for sure. Kaz wants to live to continue his work. Basically, his work being, like, you know, fighting for justice in Ravnica.
Right.
And he doesn't need heroics to prove that he fights for the just cause. He doesn't need some big damn sacrificial moment. Hex has too much at stake to throw her life away. And Angelo is too afraid of death. Alistair is a daredevil with tons of cool powers who has thrown himself headlong into danger before.
Right.
Marching right into the upstairs of a room full of armed Orzhov guards in wolf form, just to hold the line while your friends broke in. Like, you literally threw yourself into a fight with 9 enemies, 9-on-1.
Right.
Against yourself, just to buy time for your friends. Like, that is the action of someone who is willing to straight up like throw themselves into a suicidal attack at any time to win the day.
Right.
Everything about that screams Alistair to me.
Ryan's answer. He said Kaz.
Really?
It's honestly a tough call, but I think he's got the biggest compunctions about letting citizens of Ravnica, alignment be damned, die. I don't think it would be easy though. Which is fair.
That's interesting. And I'm assuming by alignment he's meaning, like, their guild alignment. Because, like, he doesn't care. Kaz doesn't seem to care about the health and well-being of the Ravnican citizens who are involved with this whole mess. Like the Orzhov cultists or the Demir agents who are involved with this. Those guys, as far as he's concerned, are dangerous. But you guys are all people living in Ravnica, one way or another. Whether you live in the wilds, or you live in the city, or you live under the city, Kaz sees them as citizens, and it's his oath to protect the citizens. Yeah. So it makes sense. He'd be like, of course it has to be me.
Well, that's the thing, too, is that's a fair argument. But also, like, I don't think Alistair would see him dying for him. Interesting.
I think what Ryan's kind of saying there is that Kaz probably would.
Yeah, I think so, but...
Yeah, that's the thing, is that we can only really answer these questions from the perspectives that we have, and we see the game through the lens of our characters.
Right, everyone's answering through their own lens.
Yeah. I'm kind of answering from, like, the global lens of what I expect because I'm playing NPCs, but it's a little bit flavored by Angelo's perspective as well.
Right. Okay, and then Kyle's?
Kyle said Casimir specifically. He said if Katya was still alive, it would be her, but yeah. Katya was the character I played in the first couple sessions. She was an NPC character who helped them. She's a cleric of the Selesnya. She could speak to the world soul, and this whole adventure kind of got kicked off beyond that because she was killed.
Yeah.
She was killed by cultists working, like the main villains of this plot.
Right.
Cultists working to kind of take over Ravnica through mind control. And for one reason or another, they needed her soul.
Right.
So she is currently an empty husk with no soul, and her soul's out there somewhere.
So I think under this, it's a 50-50. Who, if someone was going to die for our group, it'd probably be Alistair or Kaz.
I think that's right, yeah. And it seems to me that we kind of think it would be Alistair, but Ryan and Kyle seem to think it would be Kaz. Interesting. So next one.
This is where we get into the blanket things, where it can be anybody.
These are any character. So amongst all of the characters we mentioned, of your own characters in any of our campaigns thus far, which one had the most pets growing up?
I said, oddly enough, it's probably Papyrus and Ivy.
Oh, interesting.
Holly is famous for her animals, but she didn't have many growing up. Raffi and Ezra preferred to let animals be wild, not to mention they had their hands full with Holly and Rowan.
Oh, her crazy brother.
Holly and Asher had lots of animals as adults. Thus, Papyrus and Ivy and Nova had a lot growing up. They grew up alongside the direwolves. Ivy had a cat and Jara. They had a barn full of horses, all the fish and the turtles and frogs in their backyard. You name it.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about the backyard pond, too. Damn, they really did have a lot of animals. Makes sense to me. Cool. Oh, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I knew it had to be someone in their family.
Right.
I guess I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't necessarily Raffi. But Papyrus and Ivy make them. Like, you had the entire fucking, like, direwolf litter that you were raising at that point. So it's like, of course, they must have had, like, over a dozen animals at any given time. Easy.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
I said, I think it would have to be Arya. Her sister would bring home so many little creatures growing up that they ended up keeping at the house. Some of them became both of the girls' pets over time, especially the cats. Arya had a childhood love for felines. Yeah, she had a lot of little, like, stray cats growing up. They weren't necessarily, like, living at the castle, but they'd come by all the time to play for a little while. They'd show up every day, and she kind of befriended a lot of them when she was growing up. Different cats at different times, sometimes multiple at once, but she had a lot of cats growing up.
Ryan said Kaz. The man likes his dogs, and so did his parents.
Yeah, and you can tell with his I didn't mention it before, but Kaz is a warlock. He's a Celestial Pack warlock. And he chose the familiar subpact, and so his familiar is a fey creature. It is a blink dog. So he has a dog familiar. And I mean it's the officer and his hound. It's the classic trope. And damn, he loves that dog.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, that's the thing too is, Alistair has his pet.
Oh yeah, he has Nimbus, his fennec fox.
But I think if that was like, I don't think they like keep animals like that.
No, the Gruul don't keep animals. They like live alongside some of them, but they're not domesticated.
And they have their dad's dog, and that's it. Yeah. So it's like. But also, I didn't know Casimir's, like, parents had dogs.
Oh, yeah, probably.
We don't hear about his parents.
I think his parents were Boros soldiers, too. And they probably had...
Like, they probably also had dogs?
Probably had police dogs, yeah.
Fair enough.
Probably had a bunch of pets growing up. Kyle said that probably Hex, of all of his characters, would have the most pets. And she made her cute plushy weapons out of her memory of all of her pets. Aww. She had a little, like... She has the little turtle... Yeah. No, it's like I think it's like a crocodile.
There's one that's a turtle. There's one that's a
turtle,
a crocodile or an alligator. Yeah. I can't remember because the
one of them is a little dragon,
and
then it might have been a lizard that she had or something.
Maybe.
Yeah. So she had a bunch of little weird
reptiles
and amphibians growing up. Yeah, I could see her having like a snake and like a monitor lizard and like a fucking like a little gator.
Fair enough.
I got a gator in my backyard. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, and that's the thing is like I don't know if I've heard about any of Kyle's other characters having pets.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
All right. So moving on to the next one.
Is this my read?
This one.
I think you.
No, this is yours. This is yours.
Okay. Which of your characters in any of our campaigns thus far is the most toxic?
Oh. This was a good one. I like this. Like which of your characters is like,
it's toxic worst. Yeah. I wrote, probably Ivy.
Oh.
She's getting better about it, but she still has a little bit of that toxic behavior that she could handle much more gracefully.
Such as? What do you think is her most toxic trait?
Like ever or like currently standing?
Currently.
Her most toxic trait currently. It's either like, it's like still probably some of her aggression. She doesn't like share her emotions and then like expects people to like react to her emotions.
She has a tendency to bottle her shit up and then explode.
Yeah.
And like that usually ends really badly for the people that she's around when she explodes.
Like the time she hit Kylie with a bottle.
Yeah, she doesn't do a great job. Yeah, hit Kylie with a bottle and like caused her like emotional damage.
Yeah.
Like her charisma was lower.
Which she then
the stat she uses.
She then made Noir and Kylie matching Noel cloaks as like a air quotes apology.
Yeah.
But when Kylie was like, you could just say sorry, she's like, I'm not apologizing, I'm just making up for it. She's like, I'm not saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm saying
I'm not sorry because I bottled up my emotions and let them explode on you. Like that's not my fault. You just were in my way.
No,
basically what
you
that
just
was. And
pissed
it's like,
me off.
All right,
and I overreacted, so I'm making up for it.
Yeah. Ivy's a little bit of a mess, and it's like a lot of trauma has caused her to be that way, but that's something she's still got to work on.
It's still not great.
Yeah. This is an interesting question for me. I like this one.
Mm-hmm.
I said all of my characters have their own bullshit for sure. Arya has some codependency issues. Kellen is so desperate for the attention of his loved ones, he ropes his friends into terrible decisions. Melisana's intense need to fix people and do right by all can lead her to unwittingly hurt her friends. And Luciano isn't against using subtle mind magic to convince his friends to take his side. But the winner is Angelo. He does what he wants, and sometimes he is willing to do whatever it takes to get it. He's backstabbed friends, harmed acquaintances, and used people to get what he wants, then drop them like a sack of potatoes. He feels remorse, at least, but his twisted sense of survival often hurts those around him.
I see.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, we kind of had a hint with that in one of our last sessions where, like, him and Kaz, like, needed a place to stay, so he just, like, popped off at, like, an old acquaintance's house, and they're like, I don't even want to fucking talk to you.
Right.
Because, like, there's a whole history of him kind of just being like, yeah, like, we used to run together, and then bad things happened, and I took the fall for them, which was my good deed, and then I fucking ghosted them and I wanted nothing to do with them anymore. And yeah, sure, like, they relied on me for a lot of things and they needed my help. And yeah, they probably, like, live in a really shitty situation because they're not associated with me anymore. But you know what? I did my part. So fuck them for having a problem with me. And, like, and that's, like, that he does a lot to justify when he, like, if he doesn't want to do something anymore, he's fucking out.
Yeah.
And even if it hurts people along the way, he'll justify it, being like, well, what are they, fucking babies? They can't handle their own problem.
Right.
Like, they don't need me. But, like, that's just him. Like, he likes to rope people up into his shit, and then as soon as it becomes inconvenience for him, he's just like, poof, never mind.
Yeah. He's bad at taking responsibility for stuff.
Yes. Absolutely. And the thing is, like, the rest of them have, like, the rest of those characters, like, their issues have, like, been, like, grievances or annoyances for people from time to time, but they've never been, like, bad. It's just been like, whew, you remember when that happened? But for Angelo, he's, like, legitimately hurt people.
Right.
Yeah. Like, not, not violently, but, like, he's, like, legitimately, like, he's caused a lot of people emotional trauma.
Right.
By just, like, the carelessness of his actions.
That's fair. Ryan said, oh god.
Oh boy.
Honorable mention first, Kylia causes...
Or not Kylie. Cecilia.
Cecilia, whoops.
Cecilia Stormraider, yeah.
Sorry, I'm dyslexic. Cecilia, because she's aggressive, dumb, and holds everyone to an unrealistic standard that her father sets. Or she imagines he does? Oh, yeah, because he doesn't actually set a standard.
She imagines that her father sets a standard, yeah.
That said, she's only a side character.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, Cecilia being a Geth's daughter, she was played in a couple one-shots, yeah.
Of the actual main characters, without any doubt, it's Lem. Class A asshole. He's lightened up over the years, but not exactly a great role model. And he spent an entire year or so being a massive asshole to several characters without feeling any remorse for it.
Yeah. He really did just spend most of the time during the War of the Dragons. He spent most of that time just being like, I'm here because you all need me.
Yeah.
You should show me some respect. Mm-hmm. Without ever, like, considering that maybe, like, everyone's in it for the same reason.
Right.
Yeah. And he's right. Lem has gotten a lot softer. Fatherhood has softened him a lot.
I see.
But he still has that arrogant streak to him. Yep.
I know nothing about Lem after that because the moment Holly didn't have to see Lem anymore,
she
didn't.
That's the thing. I would say, honestly, Asher probably knew a decent amount about who
I
Lem
feel like
was,
Asher knew Lem much more because they worked together on that whole horn thing.
Yep.
And they probably worked together on it until he died. Which I actually don't know very many things about, which is fine because Asher's dead, so I shouldn't know things about it.
Sure, yeah.
But like, and Holly's not going to stop Asher from going to see Lem, but like, she's like, okay.
Yeah, right?
He's like,
All
he's
right.
really not that bad anymore. And she's like, whatever.
Yeah, all right, buddy.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that's only because he fucking tricked you.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of fucking spell they put on you, but like, rub it off and come back home, I guess. Unless you just want to marry Lem.
Gross. So Kyle's answer was, of course, #Unity did nothing wrong. I refuse to answer this question. How dare you try to call her out like this?
So Unity.
He says Unity, but in a cheeky way.
Yeah, but in a lot more words than just typing
it's
Unity.
It's clearly Unity. You never said Unity was the most toxic in the question. But I know that's what you meant.
I can read, thieves can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that makes sense. I mean, a lot of Kyle's other characters are like, like they are like heart of gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Noir and Callista are heart of gold. Satanta is a lovable, like he's a lovable idiot. Mm-hmm. Like he just wants to do the best by everyone else. Hex, she's got some flaws, but they're like normal people flaws. Unity is like an assassin.
Okay.
Like Unity likes to twist the knife, like put the knife in people's back and then twist it. Mm-hmm. And then when they turn around to see who's holding the knife, she's in front of them and she's like, "Oh my god, did you see who just did that? That's awful."
Oh no, you got stabbed.
We get that knife out real quick. Oh, are you gonna be okay? Yeah.
Turn around, I'll get the knife for you. And then you turn around, she stabs you and she's like, "Oh no, it happened again."
That other fucking guy. Just, oh man.
Just see how long they'll do it for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
Okay, your turn for the next question.
I said, which two characters in any of our campaigns thus far is your number one ship?
I'm so excited for this question.
The shipping question is a good one.
I said, ooh, that's tough. I could be biased and say one of my own ships, but I think I'll go with my favorite one that I'm not in. Because me, being the classic, I'm like, I want to make 1,000,000 ships. I said I like Darendylia.
Oh, Prince Darendil and Kylia?
Yeah, Darendil and Kylia.
Prince Darendil is an NPC in our campaign. He is a elven noble who is trapped, unfortunately, in the body of a Quaggoth that they met in the Underdark, a large sort of like hulking beast-like figure. Jury's out on whether any of that is true or not. He seems to be from a place that existed thousands of years ago and is convinced it's still there. Curious character. Gentlemanly.
But I said it's, like, honestly super cute. Especially how flustered he got when Papyrus challenged him on his crush.
Oh, yeah, when like, he found out that Papyrus
also had a crush on Kylia.
And he was just like, "Oh, you think you're better than me? Oh, you're like you're a little lordling in the forest. Oh, did you know that I'm the prince of a nation?"
Yeah. Like, that was just fucking hilarious to watch. Like, even though as Ivy, like, Ivy didn't really think Papyrus stood a chance anyway, and
sure,
like, that's fine. But she's like, dude, like, shoot your shots, and if you don't win, you don't win.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. I mean, maybe take some of your own fucking advice, Ivy, but, I was just like, it was just gold watching him, like, flounder, like, especially because it wasn't that serious. Papyrus was like, yeah, I kind of have a crush on Kylie, except he didn't even say it. He was just like, no.
Yeah,
and then Darendil's like, no.
How dare you, sir?
Slap.
Yeah, like, excuse me?
It's too much. It's adorable.
Absolutely. I like that one a lot, too. I agree. My answer, I said there are two that are really close for me. But all things considered, I think Luciano and Asher is my personal favorite.
It's such a good one.
It really is. Like, Arya and Ivy are up there. But overall, they just have less time on screen to build chemistry. Whereas Asher and Luciano have this whole entire history as very close friends who are both interested in each other despite their existing relationships, and they have so much in common. Like, the two of them just, like he's a barbarian and, like, this psychic rogue. Like, that's basically their two things. Like, he's like some like noble born who ran away to go be on a pirate ship, and now he just is like a dude with weird superpowers. And like Asher has this whole history of like having this like hard life that he scrounged out of and like found the right people at the right time and was able to rebuild a family despite all the terrible things that had happened to him. And the two of them just kind of like found each other through freak circumstance. Like, and then they were just like, do you want to go do science together? And it's just like that whole, like, it blossomed into a conversational friendship. I love that, like, Asher is this, like, demure, quiet person, and Luciano cannot shut the fuck up ever. And, like, the two of them just play off of each other so well.
Right. It's also just, like, I guess forbidden isn't the right word, but it's, like, they're, like, a relationship that just, like, God, you wish it happened, but it just didn't.
Yeah, it just didn't. And, like, and both of them are perfectly happy in the relationships they have. And they each of them loved their partners and, like, have a happy family, but it's, like, the two of them, there's always this, like, damn, it really could have been a thing.
Yeah.
Like, it really could have worked for them.
So good.
Yeah. That's my favorite ship. It's not close. Like, the two of them just had such a strong chemistry forged from a deep friendship. It was, like, out of nowhere.
Yeah, it just was absolutely organic, too. Like, there's no, like...
Oh, for sure.
It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're perfect. That's my favorite ship by far.
Ryan said Kylie and Darendelle.
Oh, perfect.
Which I have dubbed Darendilia.
Yeah.
The goddamn play that we put on starring them was romantic as fuck. And yeah, that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
If I had to pick two player characters, it'd be Lemon Unity. Still great for each other, and the shameless sadomasochistic chemistry is delightful.
So, like, it's like his favorite toxic ship. It's like the two of them are perfect for each other.
They really are, though.
They really are. Yeah.
Like, and like that's the thing too, as much as like, especially because Holly is deep ingrained into my soul. Anytime they ever like made any kind of romantic or sexual like motions or like words towards each other, I'd be like, meh.
Yeah, just like immediate throw up in the mouth.
They made. I was reading through my notes. I'm gonna finish my first thought. Is that they are like very cute.
Yeah.
Like they're the evil ship.
Yeah, for sure. It's the villains that you're like, God, I like those two.
I like that they're together. It's cute as fuck. But also like I was reading through my notes the other day, and I can't remember what it was that they did, but they like kissed or something at my wedding party.
Sure.
And Holly actually threw up. She was Cyrano made a bubble bath in the fountain, and Asher pushed Holly into the fountain, and she was just chilling. And then they like one of them grabbed the other's ass, or one of them like they kissed each other, and she actually barfed, and she's like, "Well, I'm in the tub."
Yeah, so it'll be okay. Jesus, that's too good. So Kyle said,
"Oh my God!"
Kyle said, "Dagar and Melisana." Okay, now that you've finished gagging in disgust, Lemon Unity. Oh, did that make you puke? Okay, fine. The real answer is probably Ivy and Arya.
It's cute.
You fucking troll. Thanks,
it's so
Kyle.
fucking funny.
Yeah. Both of those first ships, well, no. I genuinely do like Lemon Unity. Like, I think it's a good, the two of them are perfect for each other. Dagar and Melisana, disgusting.
So fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's very funny, but they're like, no. Like, Dagar's whole thing is...
Dagar had a thing for human women.
He really did. It was like a weird... It was like... But that's the thing, is it was like weird. Like, it was.
But
like
it was weird.
Yeah, it was like a little fetishy. It's just like...
Yeah. Like, Holly couldn't even tell if he was interested. Like, he's just like, oh, but you have potential. And she's like, you're weird.
Yeah, like, what does that fucking mean?
Are you into me? Are you, like, gonna sell me on the black market?
Yeah, like, what is happening? But yeah, no, Ivy and Arya are, like... there's like, yeah, they're precious. Like,
King shit.
Yeah, I love that shit, obviously. So Kyle's opinion is good.
Correct.
Agreed.
All of these opinions are correct.
They're all good ships. I mean, they're all great. I'm the only one that picked Asher and Luciano. Really? Damn.
The thing was, is
it's the best ship.
I have so many other ships I love.
It's the best ship. I think it's.
But I just decided I wasn't going to pick any I was in.
Oh, that's a good point. I also think one of the things that, like, I'm a big sucker for unrequited love.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, I feel like because Asher and Luciano never actually, like, that wasn't a ship that happened, I feel like that just makes it so much better for me.
Right.
I'm just like, God, like, could you imagine? The fire still cooks.
Yes. Well, also, like, that's the thing is, there's so many other ships that came to my mind first. Like, Darren Diley is up there. Like, I'm, like, into that ship, and I want that so bad. But also, I'm, like, I was, like, there's a lot of other ships that I'm really invested in. But that's because I'm in them. Like, my characters are part of those ships.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't going to be like, oh, this one's my favorite, and this one's my favorite, and this one's my favorite, because they're all my ships.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
I was like, I'm going to just, like, me being the person that, like, wants to do, like, all the romantic crap during D&D. Well, everyone does.
Right,
but
of course.
I overdo it. Is the real thing. And so there's, like, a million I could have picked, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go none of my ships for this. So that's why I didn't go with any, like, Asher Luciano or, like, Holly Asher. That's just both me.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, just, like, I love myself.
I love when I was in love with me. That was the best one.
That was the best one. So, next one. Who reads this one? Me or you?
Me.
You. Okay, go for it.
Which character in any of our campaigns thus far that is not your own do you think is the most attractive?
Which character that is not your own do you think is the most attractive? Interesting. Okay. Go ahead and give your answer.
I said, well, this is hard.
It's hard to pick just one.
It's hard to pick just one. I think if I had to pick just one, it'd be Hex. She's very pretty.
Sure, okay.
If I could pick one from every campaign that isn't my own, it'd be Hex, Arya, and Lem.
Lem? No fucking way.
I hate him so much. But he's probably the best looking out of the Worm Tamers.
Get the fuck out
that
of
aren't
here.
mine. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's awful.
We have that recorded.
I know.
Oh, that's so good.
I was staring at all the
Kyle
sexy
and
pictures
Ryan,
on the wall.
You're welcome.
Oh, they're gonna pee.
That's forever now. Oh,
I'm gonna get teased so bad.
This on YouTube. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
I was looking at all the sexy pictures on the wall.
Yeah, I kind of was too to like answer this question.
And so I'm
we
like,
have all the we did a sexy D&D calendar once, like kind of on a whim. Like someone was like, it'd be funny if we did that, and Hannah was like, bet.
Done and done.
Yeah. And now we have them hanging up on the walls.
I'm like, okay, no Holly, no Asher, no Raffi.
Yeah. They're yours.
And this was when I was picking one for all of the different campaigns. So I'm like, Worm Tamers, no Holly, no Asher, no Raffi.
You can't pick Ivy, and you can't pick Alistair.
Or Papyrus or Alistair.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so for the Worm Tamers, I'm like, Cyrano, Unica, Luciano's fine. Sven, no. Petra's really cute, but like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's complicated.
I was between Geth and Lem, and I was like, the 4 o'clock shadow doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
5 o'clock shadow.
5 o'clock shadow, yeah. No, Lem is quite attractive.
Oh no, he's hot.
I hate it.
I hate him.
That's really funny, and I'm glad that we got that on film, video, whatever the fuck this is.
Anyway,
audio.
Next,
my response. I said, it's a really hard question because we created a large number of hot people.
Yeah.
I thought about this for longer than literally any other question on here. I actually spent 25 minutes on this question.
Oh, shit, okay.
And I think that Kyle spent 25 minutes on the whole thing. I spent 25 minutes
on this question.
I think when it comes down to it, I think Holly is the most attractive of everyone.
Okay.
I admit I'm probably biased because Holly's the character that I most equate with you.
I see.
But still, like I also think like looking at Holly, like,
she's so
like,
cute.
She's very pretty, and also like a lot of the features that I find attractive about Holly are also features that you have. So I'm like,
just exaggerated.
Well, clearly, this already works,
right?
So like. That, like, I understand why I'm so drawn to this. There are so many that are a close second. Like, I'm pretty sure it's like Holly by a nose. And then my close second is, like, 6 other people.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, like, Asher's up there. Luciano's up there. Ivy's up there. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, too, is it's like...
Alistair's up there.
Alistair's so cute.
He's very cute. Heterochromia, like, kills me.
Well, that's the thing, too. Is I'm like...
So pretty.
I picked who I picked, but also, like, everyone is so cute.
Yeah.
Except
made a lot of hot people. Like,
yeah,
we can't help it. Like, that's D&D, baby.
Oops, all bangers.
Oops, all bangers. Yeah. Yeah. So that was my answer. I think Holly's the most attractive.
Okay. Okay.
For Ryan.
Sorry, like ours are really long and then theirs are short.
Yeah.
Ryan said, as a straight male, Callista.
Oh, sure, okay.
Fair. She's very cute.
Callista's very cute, yeah.
Tapping.
She's like the sweetheart. She's like the bring home to mom type, you know.
Tapping into that silent smart type, Asher.
Really? See,
I do not blame you whatsoever.
I'm 100% on board. And speaking as someone who is not a straight male, Asher.
Asher. Just I'm waving like
6'7", ripped as fuck, smart as fuck, and just like so shy. Like
so shy.
What a sweetheart. Like he's the biggest teddy bear ever. And if I sat down and I was just like, hey, what do you think about what's going on in like this this political situation he's right now? He's just like, oh, it's kind of complicated, and like I was like, hey, what do you think about like this philosophical thing? And he's just like, I haven't thought about it that much, but like we can go into it.
Yeah.
And like just like like he'll just have like a nice casual conversation about like what's going on in the world with me, like just like a nice like morning. Oh God, I love him.
Just Asher.
I love Asher so much.
Anyway,
he is a very close second for me. And then Kyle's answer. He said it's a tough call. But Ivy's glow up makes her a strong contender.
That Ivy glow up.
Her glow up, the fucking like the side shave with the
little bits of hair by her ears.
Yeah, that like incredible. And then like the fact that she's like her outfit is really really cool. It's like super flattering. She's got all the fucking tattoos everywhere. She's like a inked up goddess, like full up. Like yeah, she's like her glow up is awesome. And she is killing it. Like, and it's so funny to be like, as someone who is like inside Arya's head every Friday, and like Arya is of course like madly in love with Ivy. Like for that glow up to have like for her to walk out like that, Arya's just like. Like
well, I know that's the thing too is
lesbian.exe has stopped working.
Arya did her glow up at the same time, and Ivy was gonna comment on it, but everyone was staring at her, and so she's just like, eh.
Yeah, she's like, why is everyone looking at me? And Arya's like, pretty girl. Yeah,
girl slay.
Okay, so next one. Oh, that's funny. Next question is. And this is actually the second to last question.
Oh no! I want more questions.
I know. Well, we're well over our 2 hours now, so that's okay. Which character in any of our campaigns thus far would you most want to bring home to your parents, and who is most definitely not meeting your parents?
Okay, I said, I feel like Arya would be the one to take home to my family. She's sweet, responsible, personable. Like, I just feel like my family would like her a lot. She seems like the kind of girl you take home and she offers to help your mom with dinner and accidentally gets into a friendly conversation with your dad that he doesn't hate.
Yeah.
As for a character that I would never take home to my parents, is so many characters.
So many of our characters.
I think bottom line, who I could just never bring to my house ever is probably Lundqvist, Sven, or Lem.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. All of them for different reasons and all of them for reasonable reasons.
They'd absolutely just blow it, whether it was by saying something stupid, punching somebody in the crotch, or instigating some kind of fight.
Yeah, Sven would instigate a fight and he would take it way too far. You'd be like, oh, we're doing a family game of football in the front lawn. And he'd be like, whose bones am I breaking?
Yeah, and he'd like kill your father.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, all right. Yeah, your dad ends up in the hospital. He's like, maybe you should have fucking ducked. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. You're never coming over again. Yeah, but Aria, that's really sweet. Yeah, that is so her. That she'd be like, oh my god, I'll help with the dishes.
Yeah.
And then she'd like, but she's got that like little bit of a tomboyish streak too, where she seems like the kind of girl that like your dad would just be sitting around and be like, oh, I gotta do something. I gotta repair the roof because it's getting all leaky or something. She's like, oh yeah, I was actually just repairing my dad's roof the other day. I found this really cool like paint sealant you can use. It's here, like I'll tell you how to go. And he's just like, oh. Yeah, cool. And then they start talking about like tools and stuff,
like construction.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Or he'd be like, oh, I was watching the baseball game, and she's like, oh, they've been sucking this season.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay, she watches sports.
Yeah, she's a sports lady. I said. Literally none of the Ravnica characters are meeting my parents. 0 of them.
Fair enough.
None of them are allowed anywhere near my house. They are chaos incarnate. If I was trying to impress my parents, I'd bring home Melisana or Callista, since they're the most good-hearted and proper.
I see.
Yeah. Well, that's more of a like. That's more of my parents.
A dig at your parents.
Yeah, a little bit. They're like the good girl. Like yeah. So. They'd be like, oh, they're so sweet. I love them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, but also like, I mean, they're both sweethearts,
right?
Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm taking them home, I guess, because that's what mom would want.
Yeah,
but they'd be the ones that they'd get along with.
Yes, those are the people your parents would get along with most.
For sure. As for Ryan's answer,
Ryan said, "Bring home to parents, Melisana." No,
sure, yeah,
no parents ever.
No
Unity.
No parents.
No parents.
Yeah, Unity.
Yeah.
Mirroring her home to your parents.
No, bad idea.
Oh no, yeah, it'd be a whole fucking mess.
Yeah, Melisana's a good bet
Within
to bring home to your
20
parents.
minutes of being at your family Christmas, she'd teach your little cousins how to do crime.
Yeah, she'd teach your cousins how to make Molotov cocktails.
Oh yeah. Like, I don't know where they learned that. Maybe you should probably get them off the internet.
The thing is Melisana's just like the good Christian girl.
Yeah, she is. She's just the good Christian girl. Yeah, she's the girl you met at Christian camp who is just like,
she's the girl you met at Christian camp when you were 15 years old, and now you guys are 25, and she's still a virgin.
Yeah.
And your parents wholeheartedly believe it.
She's the girl who you text at like 1 a.m. and you're like, hey, my parents are at a hotel for the night. Do you want to come over? And she's like, I would, but I have Bible study in the morning.
I would, but that's a sin.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to sin in the eyes of Jesus.
Jesus.
So, yeah.
Have you ever thought about fucking getting baptized, you cunt? I don't know how to be a Christian.
I don't think that's how they do it.
Is that what they say?
That might be. It's been a long time since I've answered the door for Jehovah's Witness. That might be the new catchphrase. That might be the new tagline. I'm not sure.
But yes, those are solid answers, Ryan. Melisana, yes.
Yeah, completely
Unity,
reasonable
answers.
No. Kyle said, I think my parents would really like Noir, actually. I'd probably try to make sure the Lundquists stay away from my family. For, obvious reasons. They've probably already heard the story.
I see.
So the Lundquists would have a bad reputation.
With their
They'd show up at
family.
the house and they'd be like, oh, are you the one who puts bartenders in the hospital because you...
Walks behind a counter.
Yeah. And he's just like, I'm going to wait till somebody walks by and I'm going to kick him in the ding. I want to see how high up they can fly. Woof. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, Noir is like good Christian girl 2.0. But like with a little bit of Callista's flair on it.
Fair.
Yeah. Right. Last but not least.
I don't want it to be the last question.
I know, but we only have one more question.
Okay.
It's going to be one of our longest podcasts we've ever uploaded.
Which character, out of any in our campaign thus far, would you trust most to watch your drink at a party?
Okay.
I said, if I was going to trust anybody with my drink at a party out of any of the campaigns, and I can only pick one person, I'd probably pick Raffi. I know there's a bunch of people who you could probably trust to keep your drink safe, but he's who I'd want to hold it. He's just got those safe dad vibes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it like you find like he's 100% dad vibes, for sure. He'd be like, oh yeah, sure, oh, what you drinking? All right, like he'd have like a nice conversation with you, and then he'd like make sure everything was good. Like he'd keep an eye on you afterwards, so he'd make sure nobody's like, because if you came with him, and you're like, hey, I'm not sure what's really going on. Like I'd rather you have this. He'd be like, anybody gives you any shit, you come to me.
He'd hold the drink for you and let you do whatever you had to do, and then like make sure you came back in like not timely, but like make sure like you didn't like leave for a suspicious amount of time, and then like when you came back for the drink, he'd like keep his eye on you for a good like 15 to 20 minutes, and then if you're like cool, you're cool, and he'll like keep his eye out for you, but not like watch you the whole time. Like he's a good guy.
Yeah, for sure. My answer, I said it's definitely either Noir or Melisana.
Fair.
They wouldn't do anything to it, and they probably wouldn't drink it either. They may give you a hard time about drinking too much, which is probably for the best.
Fair.
So, like, you get all that. You get the mom friend energy. You get the, like, they're going to make sure everything's cool and on the level with my drink energy. And you get the, I don't want other people to drink my drink, and I know they won't.
Right.
It's all the good parts in one package.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's got to be either one of them.
Ryan said, any of the Bash Bros really, but if I had to settle on one, probably Satanta. He's the most honorable of the lot.
So between Satanta, Raffi, Lundquist, Kellen, and Geth, all five of them, he said, perfectly fine, but Satanta for sure. Right. Yeah, I would argue Satanta's probably the most honorable.
Because I feel like if you gave Lundquist your drink, he might drink it.
Yeah, he might just be... Well, I feel like... And I don't think he would do it maliciously.
No.
He'd be like, hey, man, can you hold on to this? He'd be like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. And he'd hold it. And then he'd get into a conversation and be like, yeah, take a sip. And be like, yeah, let's go. Just keep, like, sipping as he's going and, like, forget that it was not his drink.
The thing is that, or he would drink it, and then you'd get back, and he'd be like, I'll buy you a new one. Because he's, like, the best way to know nobody put anything in your drink or fucked with it
was, like, tried it. Yeah.
To drink it.
Yeah. And I'm still conscious, so I'll get you a new
I'll just get you another drink.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, that's there. But, like, yeah, Satanta for sure. Like, Satanta would be like, no, I'm good. I got you.
Satanta's good. That's the thing, too, is I was sitting here, I, like, whittled it down to pretty much the same thing, where I was like, yeah, like, the Bash Bros, I could probably trust any of them with my drink. Yeah. But I was like, okay, but I have to pick one. And I was between Raffi, Geth, Satanta.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I don't know, just like for the dad vibes, Raffi. Like I want him to watch.
The thing is, it's who would you trust most? There are probably a lot of people you trust to watch your drink.
Yeah.
But who makes you feel the safest? And like people give off different vibes. I think it's fair. Yeah. And last but not least, Kyle's final response. Mm-hmm. He said, hilariously, I think Lundquist would do the best job of making sure I had a good time drinking as long as he isn't tempted to nut punch anyone. That's the thing, is it's so... Like, once he became immune to poisons, he kind of could, like... His, like, monk nature made it so that he just didn't have to worry about getting drunk. Mm-hmm. So, like... He doesn't need to drink your drink at a party, which also has the extra benefit of, like, he's not going to get so drunk that he starts, like, doing martial arts at people.
Right.
Like, because that was definitely a problem.
He never needed to be drunk to do martial arts at people.
Well, that's the thing. But as the booze started flowing, the martial arts came out a lot more. The karate chops were free when the drinks flowed. And I think that after that point, it's like, and also, like, it's much easier for him to not challenge people to wrestling contests if you make him hold your drink.
Right, that's fair.
But to me, it seems like Kyle's answer is more like, it's less about protecting his drink and more about making sure that Lundquist has his hands full to not cause trouble.
He's the most fun, especially if he's holding my drink.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun at parties when he's not hitting people. So if we fill his hands with drinks, he can't hit people.
All of those are valid answers.
Yeah, completely reasonable. All right, so that was it. That was the D&D character survey that we had constructed.
I loved this.
I think this is so much fun.
I want to do it again.
We could do something similar to it, yeah. We might have to do different questions. You might have to pick a different, like...
I'll make a new quiz.
Yeah, that's probably what we'll do.
Unless nobody's interested in it whatsoever, but, like...
Yeah.
Honestly...
Well, that's the thing, is that, like, this content is, like, interesting to, like, our players and, like, the people who listen who are, like, interested in our D&D content. Mm-hmm. What I also will recommend is if you thought this format was interesting, even if some of the characters are like, I don't really know who that is and why that's interesting, but cool. This kind of topic is a really, really great way to do, like, interpersonal character building with everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, if you all have a bunch of characters, especially if you're, like, relatively new or, like, early on in a campaign, but you have a lot of information about your characters, this is a great way to kind of get to know the other players' characters at your table and get to know how the other characters would interact. You can borrow some of these questions. You can use totally different questions.
Right.
But this is, like, a great, like, another big, like, character building exercise for everyone at the table. I think that's probably the most fun thing about it. And even for us, like, you know, the Ravnica characters we haven't been playing for very long. But the Worm Tamers, like, we've had the Worm Tamers... whether we were playing them or they've existed in the world for almost 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, they've been with us for a long time. And still, there were little tidbits in here. It's like, oh, wow, I learned a little something about
right,
them.
You wouldn't have thought about those things.
Yeah.
Or...
Exactly. I think it's a really neat, way to kind of, like, get to know your characters a little better.
Yeah.
Which I'm always in favor of.
We will be doing this again. I don't care if anyone likes it. It might not be soon, but we will.
Yeah.
We will do this again.
That's the whole point of this podcast too. Is that some of this is for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's for us and it's for you, Kyle and Ryan. You're welcome. Okay, yeah. So before we go, I know this was a pretty long episode. And we appreciate you all for hanging in with us.
2.5 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever had any that have hit 2.5. We've been close, like over 2. I don't know if we've ever hit 2.5, but we're probably gonna. That being said. Before we close out the episode, we have a recommendation to give. This one's the two of us kind of agreed on it ahead of time.
Yeah.
We wanted to stick with the D&D theme. So one of the things that I think you all should check out, because I've been a fan of it, I've been watching their live stream series forever. Trying to catch up on it, and Hannah has been watching it since shortly after we started our very first campaign, and has been following it from the beginning. The lovable collection of nerdy-ass voice actors playing Dungeons & Dragons at Critical Role.
Yeah.
Specifically in this case, like, I mean, we've said a bunch of times, like, I love their shows, I watch their content, like...
If you have the ability to catch up, you should, but, like...
Yeah, but it's
hard.
It's hard to do, because they're all 4-hour episodes. You know, we've talked about them, we've talked a little bit about, like, Adventure Zone, Dimension 20, like, all the other, like, major D&D podcasts and, like, videos and stuff like that. But what we specifically want to advertise is their comic book series.
Yeah.
Critical Role has been doing a bunch of multimedia approaches and building out, like, the elements of their campaign.
Shows, comic books.
And... Yeah, a show, which is awesome. Probably coming out this year, I think. I'm hoping.
I think that's what they said, but...
I'd love to see that. Well, yeah, they said last year sometime, but then COVID happened, so I think it's probably this year now. But yeah, so they have... They have a series of comic book collections starring the main characters from their first ever campaign, The Adventures of Vox Machina. They have a full 5-issue Volume 1 series that compiles an early adventure, like how the members of the party first met and like some of their like earliest days before Critical Role's stream. All of this is stuff that happened before the stream. So even if you've never seen any Critical Role content, even if you know nothing about these characters, this comic book introduces the characters and sets them up very early on. So you can read these comics without having any prior knowledge of Critical Role as a series, and it's a great way to kind of get into like character building and party building and like seeing how a D&D party comes together.
Yeah.
Because it kind of like reflects, the whole story kind of reflects the way that Matt kind of got these characters into the same party. It's like the early adventure. So it might give you some ideas for your own campaign. That's Volume 1. They have a Volume 2, which continues some of their pre-stream adventures. And I believe Volume 3 of Vox Machina's Adventures is starting to come out.
Yeah.
I don't know if issue 1 or 2 is out. They don't have a collection. But that's when it starts to get into the content that happened, like, I think just before the stream. It's like some of the, like just pre-Critical Role stuff. So, I totally recommend those comics. We own them. Hannah knows a lot about what happened with them because she's seen all their stuff.
I'm caught up, luckily enough.
Yeah, but she hasn't read through those. I've read all of Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is their first 10 issues, cover to cover. Some really neat stuff. Some really cool monsters and encounters that I thought were kind of inspiring. The back of their first comic issue has a map of a small swamp town called Stillbin in it. Totally usable for a D&D campaign. It is a great way to start a one-shot if you wanted to do something set in Teldore. And it also has some cool stat blocks that I actually used for our own D&D campaign. I used one of the stat blocks for a monster that you guys fought.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, one of the creepy experiments that you guys fought in the Wizard's Tower. But yeah, so totally recommend those. They have Mighty 9 comics coming out later this year. They have a book about the twins, the half-elf twins, Vex and Vax, like a full novel.
Yeah, they have like character like origins.
Yeah, like a character. It's a lot of like character origin story stuff. So all of those are coming out sometime this year. I totally recommend picking up any of those comic content. You don't need to have followed the series to watch it. You can just pick it right up, and it's just more D&D content for you.
Yeah.
So anyways, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope it gave you some ideas, and we always like including you all listeners in the zany adventures of our Dungeons and Dragons characters.
Of course.
So thanks for listening as always. Hope to see you again soon, and we love you very much.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.